We should be live on Facebook, so please do not swear. I'll be
Right.
back in a second. It's
I
over to
think
you,
you might
Mr.
swear.
Cardy.
Hi everybody, hope you've had a good week. And that week gone quick. I was only sitting here last week doing the same thing. But if you could just let me know you can hear me, see me, be great if you just pop it into the chat, because I can actually see the chat today. Hope you've all had a good week. Been a strange old week this week. I think it's been very quiet at the shop. I think everybody's got over the Jubilee. In saying that, we've done okay in there for 4 days. We're going to have a great guest tonight, Chris Fleming. Wow. Had him on nearly a year ago, I think. And he was good then, so I'm hoping we see him again. Still can't see anybody. Anybody let me know if we're live, please, on the chat. And you can hear me, see my ugly face. Would be great. Would be great.
I'm back, guys. I'm back. Hello, everybody. Who's saying hello? Hello, guys. Chris Fleming will be joining us. I heard that bit by Mr. Simon.
You can't see my comments, and I've got my comments up.
I can see mine. I'm okay for a minute. I've got comments coming.
Yeah. You're live.
Hello there, guys. We will be having Chris Fleming joining the show around about 8:30. So please stay with us until then. Can't wait.
If you've got any questions, fire them off early so we can get them in there.
Exactly, guys. Exactly. We've got about 2 minutes before we go live on Pulse Talk Radio. So that is all good. Loads are coming in. Marie Robson is coming in. Lorraine Smith is coming in. Henry Locke is there. Hi, Henry. And Jane Cook is watching as always. Thank you for you. But Chris Fleming will be joining us, guys. Will be joining us from...
Are you feeling better, Jane?
Yeah, wish you better, Jane. I'm actually going through Chris Fleming's stuff. The stuff that he's done is Psychic Children, the Larry King, Ghost Hunters, Famous.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's done the best show out there. Help My House is Haunted. So Heidi's locked in, but I know Heidi will have one eye on the football as well.
Don't kick off yet, is it, Heidi? I think you got about an hour. Not sure. Could be wrong, but I think they kick off at 9.
I don't know. I don't have a clue. Who they got anyway? I
don't know.
Nor do I. But we are live, guys. We are live. We're just waiting for to start over on Pulse Talk Radio, and then we'll go. We shall go, domino. A couple of more seconds, but we will be joined by the lovely Chris Fleming tonight on the show. How exciting!
Yeah, brilliant.
Exciting to talk about his new show called Spooked Scotland. I've only managed to catch 2 shows, and one of them, Denmark, are already playing right now. It shows you know. I've got a real strong wind coming in. Right, guys. Here we go. We're going to go live on Pulse Talk Radio, guys. So here we go.
Spine-chilling stories from people's personal experiences. Your #1 radio station for the paranormal Pulse Talk Radio. Sponsored by Scott Allen Clairvoyant Medium. Your compassionate connection to loved ones in spirit. www.scottallen.net.
Do you like things that go bump in the night? Are you interested in the paranormal? Ever fancied yourself as an investigator? Come and experience it for yourself on an Essex Ghost Hunters event. With over 20 years of experience in the field, with investigations countrywide, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and for event information, please go to www.essexghosthunters.com. EGH.co.uk. And if that's not enough, join us every week on the EGH Paranormal Talk Show, live on Pulse Talk Radio.
Hello there, guys, and welcome to the EGH Paranormal Talk Show, live and exclusive on Pulse Talk Radio. It is the 10th of June 2022. It's warm in the UK. The current bun has been in the sky.
Yeah.
And welcome to the show. And as always, the resident ghost on the show, Mr. Simon, is there. Can you knock 3 times if you're there, please? Oh, the technology has worked. Old school technology has worked. Welcome, welcome, one and all. How are we today? And how are we, Simon?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, all good. Been a strange old week. It's been quiet after the Jubilee, I think, but it's still been good.
What do they say? There's a famous saying, isn't there? Something after the Lord Mayor's show or something?
Yeah, I suppose after the Queen's Jubilee, but there's probably not been that many, is it?
So, well, I suppose it's the biggest weekend that we've had probably in this country for a long, long time. But
yeah. But yeah, no, it's been good. You?
It's been, well, you know my week, so we're not going to go down that route. So we'll stay well and truly away from my week, I think, because we're not going to lower the tone at any point throughout this show. Because I could say a few choice words. I do hope we're live on Pulse Talk Radio. I think we are. We probably are. You know, when you just hit that button now, all them years ago, 2 years ago, I started on Journey Through the Unexplained. And I always worried about if people could hear me because I'd pressed the wrong button or the right button. But I think we're live. I would have been told by now. And the worry would have been over. Yeah. But yes, you're right. You are seeing Live with Chris Fleming at the top of your screen. The notifications would be coming up on your screens. And yes, we will be joined by the wonderful Chris Fleming later on in the show. Around about 8:30 UK time, he will be joining us all the way from, I just love saying this, across the pond, which is absolutely fantastic. He's coming on to talk about his new show called Spooked Scotland, which is airing live, not airing live, but it's starting tonight at, I believe, at 9 p.m. on Really. And it has been on for the last few weeks over on Discovery Plus. If you've got Discovery Plus, you've probably been tuned into it, but there's been some really, you know, from episode 1 at the Isle of Inram, I think, Aram, I don't know how it's
Castle. Was it Berwick Castle?
Stirling Old Jowl. I've only seen 3 episodes at the moment.
Yeah, Berwick Castle, then it was Bannockburn House and Stirling Jowl.
Yeah, so I've only seen the first one, which is the Isle of how it goes on the
I think that is. Yeah, I think that's where Broderick Castle's on. Yeah,
and
the thing I like about this one, they seem to go to the places, but they also go on little places out there as well. So you see, like there's a little church, I think, at Bannockburn House where I've watched, and Stirling Jowl, they go to a hospital. So it's pretty good. And some cracking evidence, actually. Cracking evidence.
We'll be touching on that sort of throughout the show, but, you know, we're going sort of along the lines of, sort of in the first episode, we go along the lines of fairies and elementals.
Yes.
Which is rather deep for an opening hit of a show, but, you know, brilliant to start off with. And then, to be fair, we'll touch on it sort of, obviously, when we're talking to Chris, but in episode 3, I've never seen Chris so panicky. I've never seen Chris so panicky in all, you know, all watching Chris. You know, I've seen him, and
I've been a good reason why though, I think.
Yeah, but we hopefully we'll touch on that all the way through the show. But please, guys, Chris will be joining us around about 8:30. But if you've got any questions, please start getting them ready and going from there. But let's say hello to a few people. We've got Lorraine Smith that is joining us tonight over on Facebook. That's it.
Hi.
Everybody who wants to see Chris will be live on Facebook and YouTube. Mary Robson, Heidi, Alison Reese, Julie Ray, Heidi's there as well. Terry C is also locked and line in. The lovely Sandra Arnold, Mrs. A is locked in. Alan Diprose is locked in. Carol Baldwin, everybody's locked in. Craig is locked in as well. Good evening, Craig. But yep, big guest tonight. Exciting. Yes, I may have a man crush, but who cares? I don't care. He's my favourite paranormal investigator. It's got to happen.
Little fact for you.
Yeah.
You know Evelyn that works on the show? The girl?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know she worked on the Battersea Poltergeist and Uncanny?
Oh, that's Evelyn.
That's Evelyn.
Oh,
yes.
You know what? I knew that voice.
Yes. Yeah.
I knew that voice.
Yes.
Oh. But it would be good, guys, if you want to, you're very welcome to, is to share this. If you're watching on Facebook, please share. Some good news. After last week's show, around about 11:10, I got the message to say that we got to 6,000 of you that had liked us and followed us on Facebook. So a big thank you to everybody that liked and shared it. But this is the feed that you want to share tonight. If you can't share it, please head over to www.pulsetalkradio.com to tune in there. If you can't watch us, please listen to us, and we'll be live, and you'll hear our same as our dulcet tones. But we're on 3 platforms, guys. We are on YouTube, streaming now live to YouTube and Facebook, all on Essex Ghost Hunters. Just go over, have a look, and go from there. And come on, but please start thinking of your messages that you're going to be talking to Chris. We've got to say a massive thank you to the lovely Kim for sorting this out again.
Yes.
Which is brilliant of Kim. Unfortunately, Kim is working tonight. I feel like it really does goad me. It does. I feel really sorry because Kim gets all our guests and she doesn't have the privilege to come on with us and speak to these. But it just shows you that, how well she does. Massive thank you to Kim and Ben, obviously, that does. I've got to say a message to Ben as well, our northern friend, one should say, for doing all the artwork that he does for the show as well. So I have to say a big thank you to them. Thank you for everyone that is sharing. Absolutely, thank you so much. Pardon, matey?
Just get us to 7,000 tonight.
Oh, mate, if we got to 7,000 tonight, I'd buy all our listeners a drink. That's how I would feel. But hey ho, we did well though. This week has been crazy.
Yes,
I think we're up to about 20. We've had an extra 24 this week coming from somewhere, so people are liking us. And we're not a team that go out there and pay for boosts or anything like that. We naturally do it. Naturally. It's taken probably 10 years to get to the 6,000, but we've got there. No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But what have we got coming up this week then? Oh, next week. Is it next week? We've got an event? Must be, mustn't it? Night.
Yeah, we've got
Victorian Seance night.
The Victorian, yeah.
Yeah, Victorian Seance night should be quite a good night.
I think it will be, yeah.
I'm looking forward
to it.
We'll be
at old school, so.
Yeah, there'll be no equipment apart from dowsing rods and pendulums.
I might sneak some in.
No, you won't. They would never have had it in a seance. It's a Victorian seance. That's what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to do. We will definitely try some old school techniques. Obviously, when we talk about a Victorian seance, how that come about is that the actual medium of the evening, so when, they would have been called in,
Yeah.
to hold a seance to communicate with their loved ones. That's how it would normally work. And they used to tie the medium to the chair. They used to tie the medium to the chair and gag the medium. So the medium couldn't say anything. They were just the vessel.
Blindfolded as well, weren't they?
Some were blindfolded and some wasn't.
Right.
But obviously, you know, like we was talking about last week with Harry Price, he held seances in Borley Rectory.
He
Obviously,
did.
he didn't tie people up, but that's what we're going to be doing next week. We may even attempt to see if that actually trigger does work. You know, if that trigger does work, maybe we'll hold a seance and maybe tie two of our mediums up as a trigger reference, you know,
Yeah.
to see actually if that does generate more energy.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, good idea.
I wondered
Let's try
how
anything. Let's try anything.
candlelight, maybe Carol, maybe candlelight because of I don't know the I have got candles, but I don't know about the fire alarm system in the place that we'll be
I
going.
think we will be able to have them. I do think we'll be able to have them because it's used for functions, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
So I would imagine they're going to do it for birthdays and birthday cakes. So.
Yeah, I would think so, but I'd more be worried about having a candle on the table if you was doing a seance, because after the last couple of seances that we've had, the tables have really started to rock and roll, and that would scare me.
Especially when we did it at that village hall last time in them tables. My God.
Yes, it was scary. It was no, I say scary. It was. I wouldn't want a candle on top of that.
No.
That's something that I wouldn't want.
Good point. Yeah.
You know, it's just going to be old school Victorian seance calling spirit forward. There'll be spirit boards. There'll be just, you know, the very basic stuff. You know, it'll be a sit down seance, maybe a hands on seance, everything like that. So it'd be really, really interesting because we had a good night there last time, didn't we?
Oh God, yeah. It was a fantastic night. It was a fantastic night, and that was very off the cusp that night, wasn't it? We didn't know anything about the place.
No.
Nobody could know anything about that place, but my God, we got some results there. Yeah.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
Did we? It was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. I really did absolutely love that night because it was just so different.
Yeah.
It was just so different. And you couldn't have predicted what went on.
No, you couldn't, to be honest.
You couldn't predicted what went on. So just for anyone that is tuning in, please, you know, just be aware that Chris Fleming will be joining us around about 8:30 UK time. London, England, Greenwich Mean Time. If you say it like that. So please stay with us. He will be coming on after around about the 8:30 mark. But we're just talking about sort of Victorian seance night. I'd like to see a scrying and table turn.
Yeah, that's actually, you know, automatic writing.
Scrying can be done. That could be easily done on the night.
Yes.
You know, that could be easily done at that night. We need a red light. You know, it does need to be quite dark, but I suppose, you know, we can make that sort of happen. So we can definitely do some scrying. So we'll hopefully. I can't remember if Paul said he's coming this night. I think he is coming. And hopefully we'll be filming it no matter what.
Yeah.
That's the only bit of equipment that won't be Victorian. You know, obviously all phones will be off. No apps or anything like that we'll be using. Is going to be old school seance nights. You know,
that'd be great.
Yeah,
I think it'll actually be great.
It's something different. It's something that we don't try that often.
No, I think I'm going to try some flour as well. Not too much, because obviously it could make a
You've
mess.
got to
of
clean it up.
Yeah, exactly. But again,
You've got to clean that one up, so I'll leave you to do that.
I had to clean the floors up last time.
Yeah, but we don't say that live on there because we're going to take some sponges this time to put on the bottom of the tables. But no, it's definitely going to be a different night, especially for us.
Yeah.
Especially for us, because we are stripping it back.
Yes.
We are going full mediumship. That is how it is for us. Sometimes we have the technology to sort of not necessarily back, but sort of inspire our answers. So to sort of automatic writing could be a possibility.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
It'd be down to the people who join. It will be definitely down to the people that sort of join us and it's sort of a trial and error night, isn't it? In many ways, because we're gonna get results in that place because it performed last time. So there shouldn't be any reason it won't. But it's going to be like a little bit of trial and error. It's going to be, let's get rid of all the equipment we had in there last time. We did have equipment last time. But we didn't need that equipment. Funny enough, it was tables that were doing all the work that night, not the equipment. Yeah, no, it was definitely a night that was like wow.
And I think a lot of teams and a lot of people are going back to that way of working. I do think that's more and more. I know what we're seeing in, Chris's. There is technology there. But if you look at Chris, he uses his body more than anything when he's working, and
yes,
I think that goes through a lot of people.
Yes, because he even had the in the first. I shouldn't really I want to talk to him about it, but he had that phenomena that is very common at the moment that I see that is is where the torch is flashing, the communication via the torch.
Yeah.
So I found that sort of really sort of inspiring and think, well, this is a well-known investigator using every possible means possible to get, and is what I like about it. There's too much out there at the moment that it can't be this way, it should be this way, it can't be that way, it should be that way. Well, how possibly can you tell me that a K2 meter or any sort of, I'm not the biggest lover of a K2 meter, don't get me wrong, but how can we be sure that isn't spirit communicating with it? How can we be 100% sure? Because we don't know.
No, and I think that's what Chris is trying to do. Again, I want to talk to him about that as well, where he's trying to get the spirit to affect the equipment quite. I think that was either it was a backbone or the jowl. But he was asking the spirit to actually. He got something where he was actually asking the spirit to affect the equipment in a different way to what we would be. Quite clever, but we'll ask him when he comes on.
Definitely, we definitely it'd be fabulous to sort of see, because it's definitely how we work feels very much the same as how Chris works as well.
Yeah.
And I think I like that. It makes me feel comfortable. It really does.
Yeah.
It really, really does. But though, please, guys, if you can share this post, it would be great. If you are watching on Facebook, please share, because sharing is caring. Okay, sharing is caring. So yeah, please. But Chris will be joining us around about the 8:30 mark on Pulse Talk Radio, Facebook and YouTube, where we've got all the live bits going. Whoop, 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 whoop. So we're very modern technology here at Essex Ghost Hunters. It's probably not set up the right way, but it does the best. It gets our voices out there. You join in every week to listen. So that's the good thing about it.
Yes.
That's a good thing about it. You guys are brilliant. And if it wasn't for you sort of guys joining in and your, all your help and your interaction, then the show doesn't work. It really doesn't.
We'd be talking to thin air.
Yeah, exactly. We would be.
We'd be talking to each other.
Let's be fair. We've done that many a times, talking to thin air.
Yeah.
It does feel like that sometimes, but no. Can't wait for you guys to. Can't wait for Chris to join us. There's so many questions. I say I have got definitely a man crush on Chris Fleming. He's my favourite. One of my favourite investigators when it comes to the paranormal.
Yeah.
It all started for me when we watched when I come across Help My House Is Haunted.
Yeah.
So it would be, it is. I just love the way it works. I think it is very old school. They do bring a lot of technology. Is the Victorians pay-per-view, please? No, Carol, it won't be pay-per-view. It won't be pay-per-view. We're not that high tech, Carol. I'm not that high tech, but no, I wouldn't make that to you. We may go a little bit live if we can do. If the signal is good, I may try and do a little bit of live footage for you so you can see sort of how the Victorian Seance is going.
Yeah, good idea.
What we're experiencing and things like that. So that would be.
You might be tied up though, and gagged and blindfolded. So
how's it going to be me? How has this one already come over?
I think I think we've got to get something sorted. It's
I just don't see how you're all gonna put this one on me. I really don't. I really don't. But maybe we'll put a vote to it then, guys. Maybe we'll do a vote in the week to see who you want to see gagged and tied to a chair for the Victorian Seance. Who would be interested in a vote to see? I love the way Tina says, this is about Chris. I love the way he invests so emotionally in his mediumship. Yes. Absolutely. Couldn't. This did cross my mind. This did cross my mind, Terry. It definitely crossed my mind. Dress up in Victorian clothes.
Yeah.
That did cross my mind. But
I think that might be for the next one.
Yes, because there is that sort of not stone tape theory, but there is a theory out there that you sort of regenerate that atmosphere with obviously dressing up and causing that time sort of continuum, I suppose, that timeline to it really interact with you. I did see an experiment in a fort once where they all dressed up in wartime and they did the whole ghost hunt in Victorian outfits, which I think is brilliant.
It was in wartime outfits, wasn't it?
Yes, sorry, wartime outfits.
Yeah. And all that playing, yeah.
Because we've sort of tried to do that. We tried to do that sort of stuff, you sort of bring the olden days, because we did try and use a gramophone at one of our events.
And that really worked, actually.
Yes, so that was really quite good. Already, what have you?
It's right, it's you, mate. It's you. And next.
No. Why vote me? Why? Tina, I did used to love you, but I'm falling out of love very quickly. Right? First you send us a picture of you sunning yourselves all in the garden today while I'm stuck at work. Now you say, no, you know what? It's we're going to tie Tina up. That's the end of it. There's no vote going on. Please, can we dress up as Tudors for Deal Castle? It would be good. Or at least cloaks. Well, try it. If you've got cloaks, bring them.
Jane might bring the ropes.
Carol, could Carol make some Victoria sponge, please?
She probably could.
That's
probably good.
So, you love me, really? Yes, I do, Tina. I do. But yes, no. Let's. If we think that there is something going to make something happen, there could be if you'll be willing to, Tina, if you're happy to run a session that it is there, then by all means, that's brilliant. Right, guys, I can see the wonderful Chris has come backstage at the moment. We are now going to cut to a break on Pulse Talk Radio. For all you lovely listeners, we'll be back after the break. Just bear with us a minute, Chris, and I'll be with you.
And for you angels, www.secretofangelsonEarth.com.
Let's get Chris in. Good evening, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Absolutely
Good, thank you.
fantastic. Even better for seeing you on our screens.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and I have telescreens as well. That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Absolutely. Thank you ever so much for joining us tonight.
You're welcome.
So you have been on our show in the past, and we had such a blast.
Yes.
We
Nearly
couldn't.
a year ago.
He's even got his ghost drink. That's fantastic. I saw you on Instagram this morning. You've been in the hospital today. I hope
Yeah,
everything is
I went
okay.
yesterday. I went yesterday for so get some blood tests. I mean, real quickly, I guess, is I've been sick a lot the past couple of months, and then also all three of my cats are sick. And two of them have some major issues. I've taken them to the hospitals over March and April, but all three of them are sniffling and sneezing, and that's what I was doing too. And it all happened around the same time. So I looked at the variables of what was going on in the house. We had a mouse infestation in my house, in the walls, garage, and in the basement. So the question is that hantavirus, which is a virus from rat poop and from mice, is a big thing. And a lot of the symptoms from that we all have. So I went to get blood tests to see if there's any antibodies that I have. The other thing is any black mold, as well as the toxins from when the pest company came in and sprayed. Now the toxins, there would have been some other clear signs that we didn't have, but the question is, I'm leaning more towards the mouse infestation because my cats caught 10 mice. I was in the here's one thing you guys need to realize that I didn't realize. Okay. Whenever there's mouse poop all over the place, do not use a vacuum to vacuum it up. That is one thing they say you do not do because it turns all the dust from it into the air that you breathe in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my God,
I didn't thought about that. Yeah.
So there you go. Right. So to find out, because all the vets and the hospitals I've gone to with my cats, they can't find exactly what's causing it. For me, I've always thought it was the mice. And that's what I tell them. I think it's the mice. I think it's no. It's, I still think it is. And either that or some type of mold that's got into the lungs. So we'll see what happens with the blood test. I got more tests next week. I deal with this cough every single day. Sometimes in the morning it's violent, really painful. So we're going to figure out what it is.
Is it, could it be a potential long-term COVID, or has there been any links
Well,
to that?
That's a very good question. And yes and no, because there's something that is added on to that. I had COVID in October 2020, and I cough every morning since I had COVID of 2020. Okay. But what's changed over the past couple of months is I will cough and start to gag and almost vomit to where the gag reflux goes in. To me, it's almost very similar to a type of allergic reaction that I have with just one specific type of food. I will get that. It's very similar to that. I'll get that in the morning, and it's just violent. This is not something I had over the last year, a year ago after I had COVID. So could it have progressively gone worse? Absolutely. But the fact that this all happened at one particular time, along with my other three cats getting the same thing with the sniffling and the sneezing, then there's got to be some correlation that is connected. And I'm going to tell you guys this, and I didn't want to bring this up, but when this was happening with all the mice, okay, I'm like, how the hell did they get in there? Well, I had bird feed that was in the garage, right? They broke open a bag and they were doing the bird feed. I'm like, whatever. So some mice come in, whatever. Well, they infested the entire house, and we got in the walls and the ceiling, all that. Late at night, I'd be hearing them race across the ceiling. So I put mouse traps up, have them come in to spray. And I'm wondering, okay, in my 16 years living here, I never had this problem. Now we had, I just got back from Scotland filming. Could there be something that is coming into my house and creating this infestation? Well, mice are mice, flies are flies, bees are bees. However, we do know that in some type of hauntings, when you have something negative there, there can also be an infestation to where something comes in the physical realm to affect you. So one night when I went to sleep and I was dealing with the cold and everything, and I took an edible. Okay, an edible it was cannabis we have here; they're legal, and it just helps you sleep, gets you really relaxed. But the one thing I've noticed that it does sometimes, it creates a loosening stage to where your consciousness can go slightly outside of our realm, just slightly in between, just a little bit. Okay, to where you start noticing things. We've all had that experience where we see something shoot across the room corner of our eyes, outside our peripheral vision. The reason why we tend to see it outside the peripheral vision, and Bill Murphy had done some research on this, which is extraordinary, is the layer that we have over our eyes is part of the visual spectrum that sees 450 nanometers to 700 nanometers. Just outside that, and the most outside peripheral, it's different. It sees more into the IR spectrum. And when we're a child, we see more into the IR spectrum than we do now as an adult. That layer starts to just disappear as we get older, 4, 5, 6 years old. So we still have, on the outside, we can see a little bit more into the spectrum than we're capable with our frontal vision. So I'm laying in bed, and I've taken this edible, and I'm noticing all the shadows are starting to move, and I'm like, oh, wow, okay, because I could see into certain spectrums anyway. And I started noticing this stuff. Then all of a sudden, I see something come out of the closet, this amorphous shape, go towards the door, and I have a little hallway light on in the hallway, but the door's cracked open, so you can see the light coming through. I look at this thing. What the hell is this thing? It's about the size of a giant St. Bernard. It amorphosizes into this giant rat. Now, as I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh my God, am I hallucinating this, or am I actually seeing this? Then I see it slither through the doorway. Now, this thing was huge. And I'm like, holy shit. And as I see this thing happen, then this black mass comes up from the floor and hovers over me. I said, oh my God, am I dealing with some type of demonic entity or negative entity that is taking on that shape and that type of form? Because if we look at Beelzebub, okay, Beelzebub, which is a known demon, is the Lord of Flies. And in case we had an Help My House is Haunted, we had the flies that were in the attic and that were all over the wall. And the woman was being told to go into the shed and actually kill herself. She was having this voice tell her at night. We found out there was imps in the house, infestation. There was flies all over the place. There was the imps, and then there was Beelzebub, which we got on the spirit box. Even though it was misinterpreted by one of the teammates, when they were listening with headphones, they thought it said Beelzebub, but it said Beelzebub. You can listen to it, watch the show. Clearly says Beelzebub. So you have certain demons that are associated with certain infestations in certain species. So I remember I called the next morning. I called up Adam Bly. I said, Adam, is there any demon that deals with mice and rats? He goes, not any that I'm specifically aware of, but it's always possible they can take on that form. And it's like, okay, so you have this thing coming into the house trying to affect you mentally, physically, and obviously we may be dealing with that physically now. I got rid of the mice, by the way, and we cleared everything else up.
Just to let you know, we've got 45 seconds before
Sure,
we
no
go
problem.
live on live back on Pulse Talk Radio. Okay,
no problem.
Sorry,
it's okay. So the question is I did a cleansing of the house and all that other type of stuff, to get rid of this, but now we're dealing with some of the side effects. So how was that yell?
I don't know, because it hasn't come from my end.
Did you hear that?
Yes, I did. I heard it very
Did you
clearly.
hear that?
Yes. Oh, yes, I heard that really clearly. And it was a really horrible voice as well.
Oh, jeez.
Right. It's recording live, but we've got to go back live on Pulse Talk Radio, guys. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to Pulse Talk Radio. And it has all been sort of going crazy, behind the scenes. Chris has joined us. Let's get Chris straight onto the show, because something strange has just really happened just before we went live. But Chris, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us again.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And just before we was just, I don't know if anyone's been noticing, but Chris has been in hospital yesterday for some tests, and we've just been talking about that because we was wishing him well, and he was talking about an infestation that potentially could be in his home and things like that. Well, the sound that come through the screen has just made our jaws drop, because it sounded as if it sounded like it said, "Yes, I am."
Did you have it recorded? Did you have
Yes.
recording? Okay,
We're-
so you could always go back and listen to it. Yeah, I definitely
we're-
want a
say-
copy of that to analyze it.
We're live on Facebook, Chris, so that
Okay.
it'll be absolutely recorded as we speak,
Okay.
and we can go back over that and analyze that, because I don't know where that come from.
The thing is, I know a lot of shows that I've done over the years, and even my own podcast, we've had EVPs or voices that have come through the recordings. I mean, I know when I did with Bill Vale, I did a couple interviews with him. We were talking about imps and demonic entities. We had some, stuff happening while we were recording. That can happen because they're aware of you, and they want to remain in the dark. They want to remain invisible. They don't want to be known. So sometimes they'll lash out. I know this might sound a little dramatic and extreme for people, but when you dive really deep into the paranormal and you deal with these cases, they become familiar with you. You become familiar with them. There's a really dark layer that once you get into that, there's no stepping out. I mean, it becomes a part of your experience, a part of your life. Plus, you have more discernment to recognize these types of things than other investigators. And then there are some investigators that do know about this stuff, but they prefer not to. You look at ghost hunters. Ghost hunter goes into debunking stuff, but they don't get into this heavy stuff. They prefer not to. They prefer to keep it kind of generalized in investigating and not get into elementals too much, into imps, into other demonic type stuff. They'll just try to keep it to the ghost stuff. For me, because I've experienced everything, I'm gonna go there. I mean, if this takes me there and investigating and I find something, I'm going to talk about it because I've had these experiences going back to my childhood. And I continue to have these experiences because that's the world that I'm aware of. And we do know, even consciousness, even sports, whatever else you want to talk about, the human mind is an incredible, powerful tool.
Yes.
But it's also so powerful when it's outside of the body. When you look at remote viewing, you look at gateway analysis, and you look at consciousness as a whole, our consciousness is what drives our spirit and our soul. But also because we're in a realm, this so-called reality that we're in is just a frequency and vibration. When you go outside of that, you can come in contact with other things, other intelligences, also other parasitic type entities that are in a different structure than what we have here physical. When you deal with leeches and you deal with bioorganisms and bacteria and viruses, there are other things that are out there too in different frequencies that can be had or dealt with. So you have to be careful what you get in with consciously. So, sorry. Here's the thing. This is the thing I got to say is, and I, we got the new show Spooked Scotland, and I tend to read a lot of the comments, and some of the comments that I've noticed has been very favorable, which is great, and I appreciate that. Some of the comments when we launched the first episode at Braddock Castle dealing with elementals, that was actually the last episode we filmed, just so everybody knows. But it was the very last episode we shot. We shot that in January. Okay, we started shooting in October of last year. So they said, the network wants to make this the very first episode. I said, sure, because we're talking about elementals and stuff. It's not everything that people get into. But the one thing about this show that people that don't know me, that know my background or know the background of Gail and I, is this is stuff I've dealt with before. Elementals I dealt with on the second season of Help My House is Haunted at Devon. I've dealt with some other cases on my own dealing with this stuff. So you're going to see in the show Spooked Scotland, what they've left in is I will tend to reference things from the past. And, like stuff that Gail and I have gone through, stuff that I've gone through personally. And that's just to show that, hey, I've dealt with this before. This isn't just a cookie cutter show that's cut just for right now for you to see. We all have experience in various things, and myself included. We're going to talk about those things. And you may not know the background story, but followers that have been following us for a long time will. And that's the thing. And I told them it's important. Don't edit that out just because we haven't told that story or because it's, people might not be up to speed. But the reality of who we are as investigators has to be maintained. So the thing is people see me talking about elementals or imps and like, oh my God, this stuff doesn't exist. Like this is a disgrace to paranormal. I go, is it really? What is paranormal? Paranormal covers Bigfoot, UFOs, covers everything, aliens.
Yes.
And whether you believe it or not, when you're an investigator and you go to a location and you come in contact with something, you're going to say, oh, you know what, imps and elementals, we're not going to talk to you because some viewers don't like this. We're just going to see, are there any ghosts here? Any ghosts want to come talk to us? Because that's what this show is. This show is about the paranormal. If we come in contact with a UFO that we see, we're going to talk about it. Okay. Because we're in Scotland. We're in a country that has many stories, myths, legends, you name it. And I told some of the producers when we started doing this show, I said, I really hope we come in contact with elementals, because my second season of Help, we did, and they tended to follow us at a lot of locations we went to. Barry, Jane, myself were getting EVPs of the Pixies saying, it's us, Pixies, right? I said, you guys are following us from a location that was like a month ago. It's like they started to tag along, and you don't see it in the show because Help was really cook cut just for that particular family or that particular location, which is completely understandable. They wouldn't mix in anything from the past or whatever, which I felt was unfortunate, because, you just don't start all over again when you go to a new place. You do carry with you what you've learned from other locations, which we allow in Spooked, which is great. But I had such a fascination with the data and the evidence we collected coming in contact with elementals that I told the producers, I said, I'm really hoping we come in contact with some elementals, because we're in Scotland and there's so many stories. So they had selected this location, Island of Arran, because it did. But we also came in contact with a form of elemental, even though it's not mentioned in the episode, the specific, because we didn't know what it actually was till after. We come in contact with a Castle Mingus. We come in contact with a certain impish type elemental that is not good. And the stuff that happened there is just like, you know what? I remember telling Barry, I said, Barry, man, I wish you were with me on this, because you've dealt with the imps before. You've dealt with elementals. This was something completely different. And we had some crew members that had experiences with them, as well as my co-host had an unfortunate experience, and even myself, that when that episode airs, there's going to be a lot of unanswered questions. I know it because I watched the episode. There's a lot of unanswered questions. You just can't fit everything into 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But that's how the paranormal is. And, there's the viewers, they follow that. They know that. They know. I'm seeing a lot of viewers watching this show, Spooked. Oh, my God, I remember when you and Gail went there and did this. And I know what you're referencing right there. You, Gail just spoke about that Hotel Coronado. I know what you're talking about. And, so it's stuff like that, which is great you've had followers, for 2 decades. But then you get the people that just turn this on and don't know anything about the background. It's like, listen, I know what I'm talking about when I talk about the imps. I don't care what people say. They do exist. They're in all culture. They're on stones and artifacts and architecture all over the world. The Sumerians, the oldest known text, talks about them as the underground dwellers. It was in their culture. And I grew up having experiences with these things, terrified as these things came out of the wall, chased babysitters out of our house that quit, would never come back again, saying we have the devil in our house, all because we opened up stupid portals and doorways using the Ouija board because we had no clue what we were doing. And, we wanted to talk to ghosts, and we were just saying, oh, whatever's there and it's evil. Can we make something happen? Can you do something? And we're given permission to come into the house. Dumbest thing I ever did as a kid. Okay. And I suffered for it. We suffered for it, the family, but it taught me a huge lesson that these things exist. So when I come in contact with these at certain locations, I know how to feel them and sense them. I know what they sound like in audio. We've captured them so many times on EVP. They have a very distinct voice, and they know when I know that they're there, and they hate that, which is why they say, we're coming for you. We hate you. Those types of things, fuck you, all that type of stuff that they say that we've caught on audio. I'm surprised, the production, the network has allowed some of the swear words and some of the stuff that's happened.
The ones I've actually watched.
Yeah, but do you not find when you do that outburst of a swear word, or that outburst is an emotion? It is a part of the paranormal because you're not expecting it. You say it because it takes you back a step, and it just, for me, when I use like the swear words, it is what it does. It shocks me back into here and now. Like, hang on a minute, what just happened? That scared the living bejesus out of me. I've now got to focus to see what that is. It's almost like a defense mechanism for me sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've sworn before, and I say the F word a lot normally. I mean, not as much as like Anthony Robbins, if you guys know who he is. He says it all the time, and you've watched some videos online. You're like, oh my God, you would never expect that because they edit it out. But, it's just a descriptive emotion. It's a way you express yourself. And I've sworn just a little bit in the past on other shows, but I've never sworn as much as I have as I did in Scotland during this series, because there was so much crazy stuff going on. And some of the stuff was like, you got to be effing kidding me. Just like, holy shit, just the responses we were getting, our direct responses to stuff was just extraordinary.
Yeah. Some of the,
oh, yeah.
I've only managed to watch a couple of the programs because they obviously haven't aired fully yet. But the responses are so clear. You're actually hearing.
Right.
I haven't heard responses like that. It's actually, you can hear.
Some of the responses, correct, that I play back in the recorder and then Ryan plays back in the DR60 are extremely clear. They're right in your face. And we even have the audio guy and even one of our other cameramen or director of photography. They're like, oh my God, I heard that too. Because I would say, do you guys hear that? And they'd say yes or no. Because I wanted to see if everybody's hearing exactly what I'm hearing so that we have confirmation. And they're like, oh my God, it's so clear. But then you have sometimes you don't hear it at all. I mean, you hear it, but you guys don't hear it. The viewers don't hear it because the music's too loud on the show or the acoustics aren't there for you to be able to hear the actual changes of what it's saying. I mean, that's unfortunate. I know I had a talk with one of the producers. This is the first time they've ever done a paranormal show. So for them, they don't understand that, not everybody's going to hear these audio recordings. And that's always been my big pet peeve and something I told them about at the beginning of the season. Make sure you don't dub over this with the music and you need to amplify. They didn't do that because they spent a lot of other time on the other filming stuff. That if we do a second season, that's going to be corrected. Guarantee you. Because as a paranormal investigator, but then also as a viewer, for everybody else watching this, you want to hear what we hear. And you're not always going to be able to hear what we hear because sometimes the acoustics are different, but there are things we can do to make it better for you to hear, such as amplification. Okay. And that's something that, should we do a second season, that is going to be corrected. I guarantee it. Because I know I watched some of the episodes that they sent me and I'm like, I didn't even hear it, but I was there and I heard it, but I'm watching it on the show and I don't hear it, and I'm like, oh no, people are going to watch this. And the one extraordinary thing, I remember I called Barry up because Barry and I talk all the time from Help, and I wish those guys the best in everything, we're friends and everything. And it's like the brother-sister show, it's like, the guys are doing one thing, we're doing something else. And I called Barry, said, you're not gonna believe what happened. He calls me and said, oh my God, you're not gonna believe what we did. What happened? I go, what'd you get? We talk about the evidence, our interactions with the spirits. And I said, Barry, out of all investigations I've done my entire life, once in a while you have a direct voice phenomenon where everybody hears, oh my God, you hear that scream or did you hear something? Every location we went to, 90% of them, no exaggeration, we had a direct voice phenomenon. We all heard something. And I'm like, this is insane. But it's not so insane when you realize majority of these locations, nobody's investigated before. And a lot of these locations, the paranormal investigators never even stepped foot in. Okay. Some places they have, but a couple places they haven't doing what we were doing. So they're responding to our presence. So a lot of times I watch some of the episodes and you'll hear it very faintly. And then sometimes you don't hear it at all. I go, oh my God, I don't hear it at all. What I had done just about every location was after we heard this, I'm like, oh my God, I asked the sound guy, did you hear it? He goes, yeah. Or sometimes he'd be like, no, it was so faint, I didn't hear it. I would get the original audio from him from one of our mics. I would put it on my laptop, just like I'm on right now with these headphones. And I would sit there and listen. And then I would amplify when there it is. Okay. It's a man, it's a woman. What are they trying to say? And I try to analyze what they're actually saying, whether it's a scream or something else. Did that at Broderick Castle. I would take that extraction, that amplification of what we heard from the original audio, and I would send that to production so that they would dump that in there to say, hey, we amplified, here it is. But they didn't do that in this series. So I hope that, next season we will do that because it's important, I believe, that during our investigation, what we experience, you can see our reactions. Oh my God, you hear that? And we go right to it. But when you got the music playing and there's no amplification, you can't hear it. You're like, we don't hear it. And I want you guys to be able to hear what we heard. So that's something, hopefully we can work on for the future. In the meantime, I'm going to upload some of those on social media so that you guys can hear. I did that with Broderick Castle with the woman scream because one gentleman commented and says, well, that's just a fox. And I go, it is? I go, well, I don't think so because this came from inside the place. I saw a woman spirit before and we had interaction after. But to make sure, I went and I listened to fox sounds like, oh my God, that's kind of similar, but it's not. So I had the extraction that I did in the analysis and my notes and everything from it. So what I did is I went through it. I posted it on my Facebook, my public Facebook page. I posted that audio where you can hear Gail talking and we hear this scream. We react to it. There's the original. Then I took the amplification and I play that on the video and I show you, listen, here's the woman scream. But in the scream, you hear her saying either guilty, help me, or something else. And I posted on my Facebook and everybody's like, oh my God, there it is. And it's clearly not a fox, but it could sound similar unless someone did a proper analysis of that audio. So I understand when someone's watching a show, something jumps to their mind. The first thing that jumps to their mind, they think, oh, it's just that, because there's no follow through analysis that we do on the show because we're going from one location to the next. And we're not sitting down playing that audio again for you to analyze and explain it to you, which I would like to do more of. We do it a couple times in the show, but I would like to do more of that because we get so much amazing evidence. But that takes up time on the show, and the show's only 40 something minutes. And we're going to all these other locations and doing all these other things. It's like editing's kind of like, well, we're just going to move to the next scene. But I'm like, no, it's about some of the time we need to really explain this evidence. So I hope to do that on social media for everybody every week, post some stuff from the episodes of what I have. I know Ryan caught a lot in his DR60. I don't know what he's done with the original audio, but I'm the type of investigator. I like to go through and analyze it. So I analyzed it when I was in between some of the investigations when we're at the locations. I'm at my laptop going through, I'm at the hotel room going through it. And then when I get back home in the United States, I'm going through all of it. Because even if it's not going to be used in the show, I want to know the outcome and the responses to my investigating and my mediumship of what they're saying. And there are so many times when we got the recorder going and I'm communicating with spirit or even Gail is or someone else, they're responding to us. But we don't hear it, we don't know it because it's outside our hearing range, but yet it's being recorded on the audio. So when I go back, I go, oh my God, that's what they meant. Like a perfect example, we're at Braddock Castle and I'm like upset. So is Gail. That all these heads, these elk heads or whatever they were, deer, elk, whatever, were all over the walls. I mean, there's hundreds of them throughout the place. I'm like, oh my God, how could they do this? How could they do this? I'm like, this is terrible. I hate trophy hunters. I don't like this. But then there's a spirit says on the recorder, Chris, it was all for food. That all these things during that time period, hundreds of years ago, remember, they didn't have a Burger King. They didn't have a butcher down the street. They didn't have anything. This was all shot. They were all shot and killed. But they were cut up as meat and they were stored for the winter, for the summer, and for a whole year long, over and over again for decades, right? For periods of time as long as the meat would keep. Didn't even think of that, right? So these heads were just remnants of what they caught. They didn't do it for sport, really. They did it to survive. And I'm like, oh, okay. So nature knew that. Nature was telling us, no, it was for food. They needed to survive. And the spirits were telling us because they knew I was upset and angry. No, Chris, it was strictly for the food. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I was corrected by spirits. So it's nice to know that because we do get corrected a lot by some of the spirits. No, it's us or it's this, it's that. And for me as an investigator, as well as a medium, is to make sure that what I'm getting, what I'm sensing, who I'm communicating with is actually that person. And that is accurate because it's part of the investigation. And the last thing you want to do is leave a place and be wrong. Like the wrong spirits are like, what is he? He thinks he's talking to this person, but no, it's me. It's like, you don't want to do that because it's so disrespectful. You want to go to someone's house the entire time there, have dinner with them, everything, walk around the house and call them a different name without them correcting you and then leave and just disrespect them that way. Right. So when we go to a house, we want to know exactly who that spirit is that's there, make peace with them, friends with them, whatever it takes. And then, then leave with gratitude.
Just listening to how you speak about the paranormal, Chris, is just so refreshing because it is just, and I don't mean it how it sounds, Chris, but it is just how it should be. It's how the paranormal, it's the obvious, but there is so much that
Bless you.
Is wrong. With the voice at the beginning of the show, I do think we need a bit of that at the moment. It's just what it sounded like.
Right.
It just feels so refreshing to hear someone in the paranormal field with a really high stature that is actually saying this. It needs more of it because it is, it feels like, I don't know if it's happening in the US, but in the UK, everything that we seem to get or someone is soon to shoot it down, and it doesn't matter if it comes from your camera, your voice, your voice box, you name it, and they want to shoot it down. Right. But it's okay to put, like you say, go and analyze it, go and do your own bits and put it out there. And like you said, someone come back to you and said it was a fox, but you full well know it wasn't a fox.
Oh, you could find it on after Braddock Castle. You can find the comment from the gentleman, and I said thank you for I appreciate you saying that because there could be sometimes that I might hear something and I don't know because I'm from another country. It could be an animal. I go, what was that? Because when we were at Macrimor, we heard something and I'm like, what was it? It's not in the show, but I said, what was it? Did you hear that? Was it an animal? Was it this? And I'm listening to it and I can't make out, what it is, if it's an animal or something like that. So you could be wrong if you're not used to that particular sound. So I dug it up and there is, the different calls of a fox at nighttime. And I was like, holy cow, it could sound like that, but I know it's not because it came inside. You could feel the shriek from this woman in desperate, like life or death situation. So there's all these other factors that go into it that, obviously as a viewer, you don't get to experience because you're not there. So, but it's good because then it falls on our shoulders, a little bit more responsibility to explain things a little bit better and to kind of validate that by saying, well, here, we did an analysis. This is what it is, and hopefully that can be perfected. Remember, this is the first season this production company's ever done. And they've done, listen, I've done so much TV in 22 years. They've done an extraordinary job. I mean, the show is beautiful and it's well edited to flow, with a narrative and a story that is just wonderful, because on some shows I've been on, it's been real jumping. You don't know what the hell's happening. So I give them all the respect. They're so talented. They're so wonderful to work with. And we had challenges, trying to say, no, this is the way to do it. This is the way, this is paranormal. We had that challenge in the beginning, which is understandable, because once you go into this field of filming, of documenting, there's a certain way to do it. And I've had this conversation with Zach. I've had this conversation with Grant and Jason from Ghost Hunters years ago, is you have production companies come in, they haven't done paranormal and they want to do it a certain way. Can't do it a certain way. It's what it basically is. You can have what you know about the stories. There's certain spirits that are supposed to haunt this place. We go in there to find out if they're there, but you document us doing the investigation and what we uncover. You can interview the people, tell the background story, capture beautiful cinematic, footage, but whatever happens, and you document that. So if a particular spirit is said to haunt that place and we don't find that spirit, we find something else that's haunting that people are mistaking it for, you got to tell that story, because then that's the reality of what's happening. And as investigators, you have to tell our findings. Not all findings end up in the show, because sometimes we get multiple findings going in 3 different directions, 3 different spirits, 3 different storylines, which we had at Castle, I think it was Kamlangan, is we had the 2 women that are there that we came in contact with. It's just extraordinary when you see this episode. But I also came in contact with this Black Knight, and I was fascinated by his story. And he was telling me his story and how the woman he loved was killed by this king or this leader or whatever it was. And, and they used to call him Satan, because he would go around and kill people or take people if they didn't pay their taxes. And they said they believed he was the devil because he wore all black. He had a black horse and wore all black as a knight. So when he would show up and kill people if they didn't pay, they thought that underneath that, knight outfit was the devil. You're going back hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So the spirit says, what did you guys call him? We called him the devil. He was Satan. He was Satan. And we're like, oh my God, the belief system back then. But his story was a real emotional one. He did what he needed to do to serve this laird or this king. And he fell in love with this woman, which he's not supposed to, because he's supposed to carry out all the dirty work. This laird found out, had her murdered, and then he was either killed or kicked out, and it was just this sad story. Like the only good thing he had in this world was her, and it was taken away from her. So I was emotional to this story, and I'm communicating with him, and I got him an audio talking back to me like he's saying, yes, correct. You're right. And she says, I love you. And he's saying, I love you. And I got that on audio. Didn't use any of it.
Wow.
Because it didn't fit the narrative of the other spirits we were talking to. And the thing is, in all fairness, it's a 45-minute show.
Yeah.
We have these other spirits we're communicating with. We have all these things happening to us that is there. That's pretty wild. And then you have this other story with this knight. Something has to go, So for me, the biggest thing was not only coming in contact with this woman that had died there, but coming in contact with this knight and this other woman that I thought to me was just, it could be a movie. It was a movie story because it's based on what the spirit's telling me from this lifetime. And I was fascinated by that. So there's things that go on that we experience that viewers will never get to see because it just cannot all fit in that episode. And if it did, it would be disjointed because you couldn't follow through and explain everything. But going back to what you're saying is that, anybody that has worked with me, whether it's production or other investigators, I'm very adamant and I will stand up to any confrontation to try to keep it the accuracy to these spirits, because I believe that, hey, listen, I'm not going to disrespect them, because I know when I die, I'm going to be meeting my maker, and I'm going to be seeing a lot of them on the other side. And I don't want them to be like, you said this, it wasn't true about me, you did this. It's like, no, I want to, I tried to speak for you. This is what I try to do, is speak for the spirits. So sometimes I'll battle with some of the other investigators or the producers or directors. Like, no, this is what's happening. This is what they're saying. This is what they're telling us. We must follow this. We must listen to them. And it's just because I'm so passionate about their story, their lives. And I want to see more of that discussed. Like, for example, Braddock Castle. You guys get to hear the flute. You get to hear a couple other things, but you did not get to hear the direct communication with the Fae that we had using our devices and using some of the apps. I have, and you can listen to some of these clips. If you listen to my last podcast I did on gnomes, I talked to Kate Ray about gnomes, some extraordinary stories about the Woolton gnomes, everything else. And then I play some of the audio from Braddock Castle that didn't make it in the show. And it didn't make it in the show because I had 9 hours of audio to go through. And by the time I got it through, they already had the pretty much the final cut for the show. But when you listen to these communications, you're like, oh my God. So then you listen to those responses, and then you see my face again on the show. And now you realize why I'm so excited. Are these pixies, or this is because we were communicating with them. So my hope is that we do a special, or something, to institute that. Otherwise, I'm going to have to put it in the public domain and say, hey, you guys got to listen to this stuff. But I'm saving it because I'm hoping we get to do a special where we go back there and do something to further share with you the direct communication we had with them. But the one thing, and I got to share with you, coming from someone that's been doing paranormal TV for 22 years, along with everything else I do as a spiritual consultant, public speaker on the paranormal, and my investigating and all that, this is the life I lead, is the biggest struggle is that a lot of it's always dumbed down. And what I mean by that is you have this, like with help, we come in contact with angels at times. Yeah. And, you'd have the demons talk to us, whatever else, and we'd have these EVPs and conversations. And that would be dumbed down because it was too intelligent or too much for viewers, individuals would say, producers or networks. And I'd be like, what do you mean? But this is what happened. Well, it's too confusing. How's it too confusing for them? We have angels that are talking to the demons, and we have, and this coming through while we're doing this event. It's all part of the investigation, but they like to keep it scary. They want to keep it all scary. But for me, I know when we go to these investigations, we get so much more than you get to see. That's so intelligent and so incredible. And it's groundbreaking for ITC research. It's just groundbreaking. Now, it's not as groundbreaking as what we already know when we look at Marcello Bacci from Italy, where he talks to spirits back and forth with the tube radios and some of the other stuff that's been done in the past. But when we talk about what we are capable of and what we are actually doing in the investigations, why are not those extraordinary one-on-one communications, bits and pieces being left in? One of the answers is, as a director told me, is like, because that's 5 minutes long. You're going back and forth talking to them. We can't put all 5 minutes in there. I go, why not? Because we got a story to tell. I said, I understand that, but can we just take a little bit of it? Because here's the spirit answering every single question, going back and forth. All people get to see is like, oh, it said one little thing. It said one little thing, one response, but we get more than that. And that's why, coming on as a producer and then hopefully for second season is that you'll get to see more of that, because you can't refute that. I mean, that is solid evidence. That is solid spirit communication. And I know I've had this conversation with other shows, other investigators, and some of them don't get those direct communications. Some get bits and pieces of that. It doesn't matter. It's not who does, who doesn't. The fact of the matter is that this does need to be presented. And I'm struggling. And listen, guys, I'm struggling. I'm trying to get this stuff in the shows, and I'm can only do so much. So I just want everybody to know, I don't know, I'm kind of going off on tangents here, but you can see where my passion is that the spirit communication,
Exactly. And we did have a comment that come in a while ago, and I can't find it because it just sums you up perfectly, Chris. It said, It just said how your passion comes across in your mediumship. And I think that is just how you talk is so refreshing, and it's what I just love the way you are talking about angels. And as I totally agree with you, and I think Simon will back me up on this one as well, Chris. That there isn't just spirit of our dead, so to speak. There's different, there is bad and there is good.
Right.
Why? You're right. Why is this the communication with angels not being used more? Is there something fighting that back? When we talk about obviously producers not wanting to do it, is it too much for the viewer? No, I don't think it is. Sometimes I just think, this is this balance that we have between good and evil, where things are pushing that they don't want that to be heard.
Right.
And I think it's easier for that to be hid over sometimes and allowing the spirit to come forward.
Yeah, there's God, there's just so much. But I know when we were doing the Curse of Lizzie Borden, the documentary, they called me up and wanted me to be a part of this with Dave Schrader. And they said, well, how are you going to do the seance? I said, well, if I go in and I start channeling and spirits coming through me, people aren't going to, they're going to just criticize it like they normally do, because it's something that I do normally. And I want to see if I can get the spirits to channel through Dave or channel through Leanne or anybody else at the table. And they said, oh, are you going to tell them? I said, no, we're not going to tell them. They're like, why? I said, because if we tell them, they're going to have those expectations or fears and they're going to put a wall up. So I'm not telling anybody that this is going to happen. Just watch, just film it, please. So I held the hands, and sure enough, both of them, Leanne and Dave, started having things channel through them. And I said, okay, good. Because I already had a communication with spirit. I said, please allow this to happen. One of them was a negative spirit, and the other one was Lizzie Borden. And anybody that watched the documentary, The Curse of Lizzie Borden, I'm telling you, it's all real. And what was happening to Dave, I don't like this, Chris, don't do. I said, Dave, trust me. You know what I do. And he knows this is stuff that I go through. And he's always said to me, he goes, I don't say I don't believe it. I do believe it. I don't know because I've never experienced it. Now he's experienced it. And that's what needed to happen for his spiritual evolution. So the fact that this happened to him and happened to Leanne was extraordinary. But what was also interesting is we're talking to the Borden family. We're talking to this darkness, this evil that has affected them and has affected people all over the world. But then these angels come through, and we have like one of the ITC devices going, and you're hearing them talk about the angels. Who's coming? Gabriel, Michael. And it says, describe this angel. Is big, blonde hair, white face, eyes are glowing, and it's describing it. And you're hearing this, and everybody's like, oh my God, right? And I'm like, yeah, right? Well, when I saw a preliminary cut for it, they had a bit of that in there. And I'm like, okay, cool, they left it in. And then the final cut, they didn't. I said, why? Well, someone in the network said, take it out. They said it would be too confusing. What do you mean too confusing? Well, there's too many elements in the show. You have the Borden family, you have this darkness, this evil, and then you got something in the forest. No, leave it in, because that's the reality of paranormal investigating. Is when you communicate through this doorway, you're talking to all different variations of different spirits and entities that come through to talk to you. That's the reality of when you have these seances and these sessions. So I was really disheartened that it was taken out and I showed it to a couple of my friends, like, oh my God, why didn't this stay in? It makes it even more remarkable. I said, I know. So, there's always factors that take stuff out like that. And I'd rather talk about the things that are in the show, but I also have to bring up that there's some elements. Same thing happened on Help,
Do you feel that there is an underlining from the spirit world that is stopping this?
Spirit world stopping? No, I don't think so, because we're getting it on audio. I mean, when we did Help, Barry caught some amazing EVPs. We were at, I think it was the 8th episode. There's a book being written about it. Troy Lambert's writing a book with Julie, I think it's Julie Evans, her experience when she had this demonic entity in her house. It was the first time Jane saw an imp. She saw a creature race across the floor, and she's like, oh my God. And I know she was always skeptical of it. She's like, I know what I saw. I saw this little creature. Plus we had it come through the spirit box that it was an imp, this and that. They were infesting the home because there was 2 main demons that were there, and they had an infestation because the house prior to that, they had negative and demonic inscriptions all over the wall. When they bought this house, they had to paint over it. Someone was doing rituals, opening up doorways, doing satanic or whatever you want to call it, rituals in that house prior to, and doing drugs and everything else. So it was never removed. So stuff's happening to her. Doorways need to be shut down. But what's interesting is when I was communicating with spirit and with the angels, you see me laying on the bed. I have this all in audio, and I played it for the author that's writing the book. And he's like, "Oh my God, it's on the audio." I said, "Yeah." So I said, "This was never in the show. So take this. You could put this in the book." I'm saying to this demon, I said, Do you see what I see? North, south, east, west. And there was angels on each corner that were staying, waiting. And then one of the angels on the recorder, EVP, says, "Do you see him? Do you see the creator?" Right? In this ethereal voice. And then the demon says, "Yes." Right? And then I say, "What else do you see?" Because someone else shows up. Right? And the response, clear as day, is Jesus. Wow. Barry recorded this, not me. And he goes, "You're not going to believe this." And he sent it to me. So I've got the audio. I put it on my social media a couple months ago. I posted it on there. So we do have responses of angels, the creator, that comes through, but it just doesn't make it in the shows.
Yeah. It doesn't feel right, though, does it, in a sort of
way? The thing is because it's all negative and all evil stuff. Yes. And that just adds more to the world and more darkness we have in this world. People need to realize that there is good. There is good out there. Yes. There's good spirits, there's good ghosts, there's angels, there's.
Yeah.
But do you feel that there is this underlying, this, as we are talking about, people like to see the negative stuff. People like to see this,
to a degree, but it's like a roller coaster. I mean, you look at a horror movie, and I had a great conversation with someone from Discovery about two months ago. So one of the top people in Discovery. And he said he loves horror, right? But we talk about what makes really good horror. Okay. What makes really good horror is the roller coaster, is where you have some of those comical moments, those neutral, regular moments, and bam, something scary happens, right? And that's what happens in paranormal investigating. Yeah. I mean, it's like you can be talking to a spirit, this and that, and then bam, something else happens. And it's like that reality needs to follow through in a show and not be edited out. Now, you can have an editor that can maintain the integrity of what occurred, or you can have an editor that comes in and they splice it up and it loses the reality of what happened. And it's just not there. The impact is not there. So we were discussing that, and so you need to have, and I believe hopefully for second season, any of this positive stuff we have needs to be maintained in there to show you've got this that's fighting this, and then you got this to deal with, And I know the book, Troy was writing a book with Julie and it's coming out. They're going to have that background stuff of what happened, the conversations with the angels and this and that. That's going to be in the book. So what wasn't in Help My House is Haunted episode was going to be in that book, which is good because I believe that the full story needs to be told. People see it's on TV. Oh, it's just fake. It's staged. No, when we go to these places, this is the real stuff that's happening. Mm-hmm. And the book's going to tell the bigger story. A lot of it had to be what do we say? Censored, because some of the stuff that happened in that family was really extreme that just couldn't go on TV. So I believe the book is going to tell that story. So people realize, guys, this is a real case that we went in there. This is the stuff we do. It's not just TV. Sure, we love being on TV and following our passion, and you get to see what we capture and we come in contact with. But this is real stuff. These are people being impacted. And for me, I wouldn't have it any other way. I had an argument not too long ago with a director that said to me, he says, Chris, as I was getting upset, no, this is not the way, we got to do it this way. He says, Chris, it's just a TV show. And I said, excuse me, just a TV show? I said, you got people that are suffering from this, this, and this. You got people that are terrified. You got people that get attachments and that collapse and so on. And you're going to tell me it's just a TV show? I said, maybe if you're doing a cooking show, okay, or a garage sale or some, container show. But we're talking about the paranormal that is real, that affects people all over the world since the beginning of time, causes some people to kill themselves, but then also causes some people to be terrified for the rest of their life. So don't tell me it's just a TV show. If it's just a TV show, then I don't need to be here, because I'm here to help and I'm here to do things that are very important. And that's the way I look at it. I won't work with anybody else that way. If we're not on the same level, I can't work with you. I'm sorry. I can't, because I've dealt with this my whole life. I know what it's like to be a child and to be either ridiculed by kids at school that don't believe my stories, or a teacher pull me out in the hallway saying ghosts don't exist. And I know what it's like for my dad or my mom to say, don't tell anybody what's going on in this house. People think we're crazy. I know what it's like to go through that. So now I'm not afraid of anything. All right. Because I know this stuff is real. And if you don't have a voice and you don't stand up for what's true, then you're not fulfilling who you truly are. Then everything that happened to you, why did it happen? You know?
Yeah.
So I know there's investigators out there. I mean, because when we dealt with the elementals, you know, even when we were doing help, you know, Barry and Jane are like, oh my God, how are we going to tell people this? You know, they're going to think we're crazy. I told them, I go, listen, we're investigators. And if we come in contact with an elemental, whether we believe in them or not, but yet the data is there and we see one and we have this happen, we have to tell that story. We have to report what we came in contact with. That's what you are as an investigator. If you're going to go cover it up and not share it, then you're no different than politics. You're no different than certain scientists that keep things in basements, or certain religions that keep things in basements because they don't want to tell us the truth. Our job is to say, hey, this is what we saw. This is our experience. Here's our data. Boom. You know, we have to believe this exists because it's what we came in contact with. So when we did the elementals, I can see some of my co-hosts kind of like, you know, that's right, Chris, go ahead. You take the lead. And you see me, Pixies, are you here? Are you this? And, you know, and people are like, I saw some of the comments. People are like, oh my God, he's destroying paranormal investing. I go, am I? People all over the world. Why are people afraid? And once you've had an experience, you know that this exists. You know that there is this realm. So you're excited to go investigate it. If people are going to criticize or get upset, that's on them, but they're missing out on a whole nother realm that exists that needs to be investigated and tapped into, because now we have the technology. And after the responses I got at Smethwick Bathhouse with the gnomes, the responses we got during Help My House is Haunted with the Pixies and other stuff, and then the responses with the Fae that I got at Braddock Castle, I am a firm believer in the Fae right now. And I don't care what criticism I get because I have the proof. Not only do I have the face-to-face contact personally and collectively with some people, I have the conversations with these things that, you know what, you can go sit down and then show up in a couple of years once you realize that this is real. You know, for me, I'm excited and I'm trying to, you know, reach out to other people that have had experiences as well as share their stories, because I'm fascinated by this whole realm that's always existed, but that I was never had access to because I just didn't know how either to access it or that it was actually there. So.
And I just wanted to, I'm going to put this on the bottom of the screen because this is how you come across, Chris. I love how he invests so emotionally in his mediumship.
Oh, thank you.
It's fantastic to sit here. And yes, Chris, I have a man crush on you. You're my favourite investigator.
Oh.
I don't care. I don't care what people say. You are my favourite. I'm so happy you're on my show. Our show, I should say. I should say mine. But was, you know, when you was talking about the Pixies,
yeah.
Was the torch, that was the episode where the torch was affecting it, wasn't it?
Well, the Pixies and Help was when we were at the Devon house, and that there was a oven that was being affected. That was metal. This metal little sculpture thing was being affected because they hate iron or whatever it was. But on Spooked, what happened at a couple locations was there's a flashlight, and I spoke about this on my live Facebook I did like 2 weeks ago, is there's settings that will do flashing or just regular. I would be holding it and it would automatically switch to the flashing, and it would drive me crazy. I'd be like, give me a freaking flashlight. It goes, well, they're all like, give me a flashlight that doesn't do any of that, because they keep messing with it, and they would do it. Right. And everybody else would hold it, wouldn't do it with them. But as soon as it was with me, certain entities would make that thing start flashing. The reason being is, just like I'm getting right now, it gets me very irritated and anxiety because I had a concussion 10 years ago that affected, I had a concussion in my head, and my eyes are hypersensitive. So flashing lights causes me to get disoriented. So they know that by doing that, that gets me disoriented and anxiety, which will either give up on the investigation or leave them alone because I'm not feeling well. And it will affect me trying to communicate with them. So some things like, let's get them out of here, right? As like you see in the Sterling episode, which is airing right now, Sterling Jail, there's two things that happened to me, okay? They didn't want me there. And what you don't get to see, which I will play that audio clip, I'll upload it next week, is we were at John Cowan's hospital next door to Sterling Castle.
Yeah.
The flashlight started doing that again. And I started getting mad. I mean, I was like, get me a fucking flashlight that works, because I was getting so pissed. we start hearing this laughter. Ah, ha, 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 ha. I go, who the fuck's laughing? And I knew it wasn't the crew. But I'm like, who the fuck is laughing? Like, what the hell? Because it was coming like from everywhere. And everybody's like, oh my God, we don't know. We got it on our audio mics. It was so loud, but it's not in the show. It was the poltergeist. The poltergeist that was at the jail, because we had this theory that it was going back and forth from the hospital to the jail. Wasn't, and we believe it was. And it was affecting us at John Cowan's hospital, and we caught it. But for some reason, it's not in the show. I don't know why. But I will upload that audio next week, and you guys will get to hear in real time what happened and the laughter of this entity. It's extraordinary. So that's an explanation for your flashlights. And people say, well, didn't it just switch? No, you have to press the button for it to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not holding it that way. And I make specifically sure that I don't, but it would switch to that. And you see that in Mockery Moore when we're walking, it's doing that. And it seems like such an idiot moment. Oh my God, he's just an idiot. He doesn't know how to use a flashlight. I'm telling you, obviously they did not let me explain that to you, the background, but they had, and that's the very last episode we shot, but they had been doing that repeatedly at locations the imps have or something else to irritate me. Okay, some form of attachment. So sometimes this stuff follows you. It happens. Listen, Barry Guy went public when we were doing How My House Is On the second season that imps got into his house. It affected his family. His wife and daughter experienced them. Okay, he went into a dark place. He got attachments from one of the places we went to. I got an attachment from the cotton exchange or the corn exchange, the very first place. You see me collapse twice. I got an attachment after that. And when I went home, I was in a dark place and I had to get this thing removed. We get attachments and things follow us from these places, you know? And it's like, well, you're supposed to get rid of stuff. I go, listen, I'm so busy helping other people. Sometimes I don't help myself enough. And then when I realize my focus is not on other people, but on me, oh my God, I got to do something about this. I do something about it, you know, but I do that personally. So, you know, you can't go into a bee's nest and not get stung once in a while. That's the thing.
That's true.
That's sometimes the thrill of the fight as well. Just a little bit as a paranormal investigation. That gets your bubbles going inside of you. So I'm totally with you. That I've got a couple of questions.
Please.
Coming in
Anything.
that I've got to get to. Question one is coming from myself. Okay, before I start on anybody else, well, I've been following Spooked Scotland on Discovery Plus. I know it's airing for the first time in the UK on Really TV from the beginning tonight. But if you have Discovery Plus, it started a few weeks ago. Last week was the Sterling Old Jowl episode.
Well, that's on right now. It dropped on Discovery Plus last week, but it's airing right now as we speak from 9 p.m. Yeah.
Oh, right. So they've gone different way around on Really.
So I'm sure on social media, everybody's wondering what happened to me with
he's watching it at the moment.
Yeah. Because I watched this last week, and it was the first time I've seen you really get freaked out.
I got violated. Someone's saying right here, got violated.
That's it, exactly.
Damn, you got violated.
And I'd never seen you sort of get so sort of animated in a way that it come across as like, I know this. I've watched you through Help My House Is Haunted, and I've seen you go through attachments. And, you know, when you had the corn in the corn mill, where you sort of had two walkthroughs, and you didn't allow that to affect you as much as it did when you come to the old jowl. I was just going to question you on that.
Well, here's the thing: is I'm a heterosexual straight male. Okay. I'm just going to put that out there. All right. So you understand. I've never liked going to the doctor and having a proctology exam. I've hated it. I mean, even the doctor, I get really upset. I'm sitting there listening to the woman tell us the history of the place. And all of a sudden I feel something and I'm trying to be logical, rational. I'm like, okay, is my underwear moving around or something? What's going on here? And then there's just no denying I'm not going to say sensation because it was not sensational, the uncomfortable feeling that I felt. And I'm sitting there going, this can't be happening. This has never happened. I've been punched. I've been stabbed. I've been knocked down. I've passed out. I've not had this happen. I've been touched in the front, but this is, so I gotta get out of here, because I know when you remove yourself from the situation, you can alleviate or remove whatever it was that's going on. Then when I'm out, I didn't know what to say. It was embarrassing. I couldn't rationalize what just happened, but I know what I felt. So I had to think about it. I go, was I getting penetrated? No, it wasn't. It was already in there. That's the thing. And then it was removed. What did it feel like? It felt like when a doctor does for a man does a proctology exam with the glove and he pulls it out with the glove. That's exactly what it felt like. And you don't forget that feeling when you had it. And I've never experienced that unless I was at the doctor having that test, which has only been a couple times in my life. So I'm sitting there going, how's this? This makes no sense. Well, I'm in a jail. So was it the physical? No, it wasn't. It was more like a test type thing. And then she tells me they used to do those tests in that room.
Yeah, it's probably a search as well, wouldn't it be? Wouldn't they?
So as a medium that picks up place memory, residual memory, experiences how people died or what they felt, the places I go to, I didn't expect this. And it's the last thing I wanted to try to feel. But I realized, because they said, there's part of me said, I don't want to even do this investigation more because part of me feels violated and part of me feels like, we had to decide, do we want to put this on the show or not? And I said, it's up to you. I said, listen, as I stated, I'm a paranormal investigator. I can't hide from something that happens. I know I'm going to get a lot of jokes about it. We joked about it 2 nights later and stuff at dinner. And I said, all right, fine. I got to take one in the chin, right? It is kind of funny when you think about it, but it's not when you realize that there are people that are raped and violated and stuff like that. And it's not a laughing matter. But as a paranormal investigator, to have something like that happen, and then this tour guide, this woman tell us that, well, this has happened to other people too. What? Are you kidding me? Nobody warned us about this, to protect ourselves walking in here. So I realized, okay, it's happened to other people. That room, there was like certain medical procedures that were done. All right, it's part of the place memory. Now, is it place memory or is it something that's actually there? I have to believe it's place memory. Okay, because I didn't have that particular thing happen anymore. I did get stabbed in the back, which said homicide, and which is like, oh my God, these spirits are either someone died there and I'm feeling what they felt in front of that jail, or a spirit's trying to get at me. So regardless, there was 2 forms of experiences that I felt from spirits from the past. So, that's the best way I can answer it. They had me outside talking about this for a while at all different angles, and I'm like, guys, what happened, and I got to go back in there. It's my responsibility. I'm the one that's been doing this for 50 years. It's like, I can't just walk away because that happened. And here's the honesty is I've had worse. Okay. I've woken up with an entity on top of me doing something to me. And that was about 5-6 years ago. That was the most horrific thing I've ever had happen. And it was like what you call a succubus. So for me to have, and I thought about that at the time. I compared it. I'm like, okay, well, it's not as bad as this. So, I've got to go in here. Plus, I can't show fear or worry around my teammates, So we just pushed on. No pun intended. Oh, my God. I could have used a better choice of words. Oh, man.
I'm glad I never said it. I'm glad I never said it because you probably would have left the interview very quickly.
Here's the thing, like my dad always taught me is that, sometimes you can laugh about things later. You know what I mean? And that's the thing is,
laughter is the best form of medicine, they say as well.
It's funny. I was saying later, I go, well, I hope it was good for that ghost too. There were so many jokes we were saying at the table. Even the sound guy and our direct photographer were all cracking out jokes. And they said, sorry, Chris. And I said, no, get them all out now. Right? Let's get them all out now before we go to the next location. All right. Let's get all the jokes out. So all the jokes came out.
No, it was a very strange episode because I think that was the episode where the chair was tilted back as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I was sitting in that chair earlier and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So that's why you see me at the end. Okay, we're using this chair. I'm sitting in this chair to help these spirits because they're telling us something.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
but it was a really good episode. If you get, if it's airing, it seems to be a little bit different airing on Discovery than it is on Really, and I don't know why they've changed it around, but it's a bit strange.
Is it different on Really? There's 2 different cuts?
Yeah. Well, there's
cuts.
Yeah, no, because on Discovery, I watched on Discovery. Your first episode was
Broadcastle.
Broadcastle, but on Really, it's only aired for the first time tonight.
No.
Am I right?
Here's what they did. They aired Broadcastle, and then the second one was Bannockburn, and the third one Stirling on Really. When they aired Broadcastle on Really, they dropped episode 1 and 2 on Discovery Plus. Then when they aired the second episode on Really, they dropped the third episode on Discovery Plus, even though it hadn't aired yet on Really. So what they're doing is they're dropping a couple of episodes on Discovery Plus before it airs on Really. So yeah, that could be confusing. So
I'm going to cut to some listeners' questions now. The lovely Heidi has messaged in. Hello, Chris. I have a huge respect for your work. I have 2 questions for you. Which ghost experience freaked you out, or which one was the best you've experienced?
Which ghost experience freaked you out? I would have to say the first experience I ever had as a child, when the ghost appeared to me face to face. I had something happen in the room. I slept with my dad that night, and then we heard my sister screaming. So, excuse me, we both raced into her room, and she said, Daddy, there was a ghost that came out of the wall, hovering above the bed and went back through the wall. I said, see, Dad, I told you. There's a ghost in the house. My dad says, oh, you're giving your sister nightmares. Go back into my room, or you're going to sleep in your room if you keep this up. So I said, don't turn off the light until I get back into my dad's room. So I make it through the hallway into the master bedroom, and my dad turns off the light. So all of a sudden, I'm in almost complete darkness, except for the moonlight coming through. And here I am face to face with this ghost. I mean, right in front of me. I was terrified. And I'm saying inside my head, please don't hurt me. I just want to get in bed. And it turns and glides to the side to let me pass. So I realized, oh my God, maybe it's not trying to hurt me. And then it comes over to the bed and it sits on the mantle right next to me, but it's not looking at me. And I'm play for play. I'm telling my dad what's happening. He says, just ignore it and go to bed. Ignore them, they'll go away. Ignore them, go away. What are you talking about? It made no sense. But for me, it was terrifying at first because you're face to face with the ghost. But then all of a sudden you realize, okay, this one's friendly, because it realizes I'm afraid and it's moving away. The other experience, I mean, there's so many different experiences. There was other ones that were really scary too, besides that, but that was the very first one. The other would be, I would say, I'm trying to remember the one that hugged me. It was probably during Dead Famous. We're at Boot Hill Cemetery, and there was a spirit that was there. And I got it on audio too, in the communication back and forth. But I started praying for it. I said, no, you don't need to be here anymore. You can go. And all of a sudden the spirit came up and it hugged me, and I felt the hug. And I remember our director, Maria, she's like, oh my God, he's ice cold, all around him. And I just felt this ghost come up and just hug me to thank me as it was bawling, that it was shedding its emotion and the attachments that was keeping it here before it left to the other side. And then I started crying, going, oh my God, I'm helping somebody, and that was one of the first times I had that emotional response. So for me to have a ghost do that, like, oh my God, I don't even know you, and you're giving me a hug, thanking me for something that is really just so simple, just to pray for you and believe you, and then to see it go, it to me was just like, wow, this is something extraordinary. And there's been many others after that, but for me, that was very impactful.
And it's what a lovely feeling as well to be hugged by, because obviously we try to, one of our goals is to prove there's life after death for people that maybe don't necessarily believe it or love their loved ones. But you to be able to feel a hug from an energy, how that gives you hope for others that they can feel a hug from their loved ones eventually again.
Right. Well, that's the thing. And that's like the one thing I loved about doing Help My House is Haunted was we were doing that. And people be like, oh, he's praying, he's doing this, you're doing that. And listen, if you don't pray for them, who will?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, please tell me that. If you don't pray for them and help them cross over, now you can't force them. They got free will, but by you praying for them, they're realizing, oh my God, you really care about me. And then spirits higher up on the other side come forth because you're calling them forth with the prayers for the dead. Then what happens is they recognize that because you've done that, because you're on this plane. They're stuck here on this plane. So you have to do it on this plane of existence. And then when they recognize that with their free will, they'll cross over. This was something obviously with me, Sandy, and Barry, and then me, Sandy, and Jane. And now it's, Barry, Jane, and Ian, doing this to help, which I think is just extraordinary. But I continue to do this on Spooked. Every location we've gone to, I've done this. And I told the directors, I go, listen, I'm going to go off and do prayers. And I told even Ryan, Ryan, the first episode we shot was Bannockburn. That was the second episode that aired, but that was the very first episode I did on this show. So when they were in the house doing stuff, and I just had interviewed this woman, and we're talking about the soldiers because I'm seeing them with the spears and stuff, and I realized, oh my God, and the director says, no, we're not going to really deal with them outside. We're going to be dealing with everything inside. I said, okay, then I need to go do something. I said, Ryan, come with me. He says, what? I said, bring I got the director says, here, take a camera, film this. We film this, but it's not being used in the show. It doesn't need to be. I said, Ryan, I want you to experience this. So Ryan had this ITC app, and I had the camera, and I also had my chime and whatever else. I said, all these soldiers are lining up, Ryan. They want to be prayed for. They know what I'm going to do because I've done this at other places. And Ryan's hearing them respond. Heaven, take me home, please, prayer, this and that. He's like, holy cow. He's like, they're talking to you. I said, I know. This is what they do when you are connected with them. So he's getting to hear what they're saying as I'm telling them I'm going to help them cross over. This is what they must do. They must forgive themselves. They must let go of the past, revenge. They must think of a loved one or think of like the greatest moment they ever had. That thinking of creates that emotion of happiness, love, joy, which is the frequency they must be at to then begin to receive, and then cross over. And in doing that, and then the prayers as they come, I said, oh my God, then I see mother, father, dad, wife, friend. They all start seeing their loved ones that have crossed. And then, of course, they go, right? And this is one of the procedures, the principles that you do for this. So he was experiencing it. I said, Ryan, I want to show this to you. This is what I do. All the other stuff on camera, everything we do, everything that's all real, the investigating, I do it because of this. This is what pushes me to confront the evil, the negative, and to help these spirits. Not just to talk to them, get an EVP and say, okay, we're done. Place is haunted. It's great. Let's go. No, I do all that to confirm who's there, find out why they're there, and then help them. If there's something negative keeping them there, to get rid of it so that they can push through and go to the doorway so they can cross over to the other side. That's what I do at every location we go to. Okay. So I wanted to at least establish this is my intent, my purpose for being here. All right. Regardless of what everything else is going on, this is it. This is my end game. Okay. So I did that at every location. A lot of times I did it on my own. I remember one place, the castle, I go to the bathroom and I'm done in the bathroom in the hallway. I just did it right there in the hallway, right after the bathroom, Don't need to have anybody watching or anything. It's because it's not for that. But I would tell the crew, if you want to film me do this, it's fine. So you'll see sometimes they're filming me from a distance or little bits and pieces, or you don't see any of it. But one of the, you saw this in Sterling in the jail. You see this. But if you listen closely, and they didn't put any titles to the responses, because we got extraordinary responses from the Frank's box, but they didn't put any titles up. And it says Sterling, it says all this other stuff and light and everything. They put a few, but there was much. So if you go back to that episode and you're listening to the episode and you push up the volume, you'll hear some of these other responses to what I'm saying. It's in there. So depending upon what type of audio you have, whether it's speakers or your phone, you're watching it, whatever, to listen, you'll hear some of these other responses. The thing that for me is why I have the ITC going when I do the prayers and we're trying to help them, because I want to make sure they're on the same page. And if there's they say demon is preventing us, then angels come in and whatever else. You'll hear them say light, going in the doorway, mother, father, thank you. There's the Edinburgh episode where we go into the vaults. I love this episode because some of the EVPs we get are extraordinary. And it's so cool because this is Dead Famous all over again with Gail and I, and Gail freaking out from the stuff that I'm getting. Gail having some crazy experiences. But then at the end, because, that's her hometown, right? Edinburgh. Yeah. And I don't want to give it away, but the ending to me, I teared up. Okay. It's very emotional at the ending, very emotional. And I think it's a gift. It's a gift that I think Gail, everyone that will understand it and that realizes how important it is will get it at the end. Some people won't, to be like, whatever. But it shows why we do what we do. Not everybody does this, but why I do what I do, and people that are around me, I try to inspire and influence them to do this, how important it is. You'll get to see that at the end of that episode. For me, watching all the episodes, that's my favorite moment. That is really my favorite moment that sums up why I'm here and why I continue to do what I do so passionately.
And I think that's, you say that you can hear that in your voice. You can see that is a passion of helping the other side, in whatever means possible, as I say, in the art of prayer, intention, however you see it, to help the other side continue their journey, if it's to cross over, if it's to feel relief, or whatever they need from
Comes
you.
across on the program as well, Chris.
It really does.
I think that does come across. As I say, I've only watched 3 of them, but you can tell you're passionate, and you can tell at one point, I'm going to do something. And because we've interviewed you before, we're going to know what you're going to do. So that's whereas probably some of the viewers wouldn't. I can tell.
Yeah. It's, I had a talk with Gail, because I said, Gail, it's been 15 years since we've worked. I've grown a lot, and I've had a lot of experiences since then that, that wouldn't even be possible to share all of them with you. So what I do now is so much more important than I did 15 years ago. There's an intent and purpose. When we did Dead Famous, it's like, I wanted to come in contact with a celebrity ghost. I wanted to get some evidence, and that's it. That's cool. I didn't realize there's this whole other level of existence and importance that I could do and benefit, from saving and helping spirits. It was what I do now. So she began to see that by the end of the season. And we're at Comlogan Castle. She has an experience, and I want her. And that's the thing, is I want sometimes the crew members to have the experiences, which they do. So they realize how real what I do is. And if they have that experience along with me, then they understand, oh my God, this is important. I need to film this, not say a word, don't interrupt him. Because there's times at the beginning I'm getting interrupted all the time when I'm doing the investigation. I'm like, guys, stop interrupting me. I'm in the middle of talking to spirit. Okay, well, can you just talk to them again? I go, no, they're gone now. Don't interrupt when I'm doing this. It's like, if a plane's going to crash, do you pause while the plane's starting to crash? Tell the plane, stop, don't crash yet. It's like, come on, guys. It's like, just document what we're doing. Don't interrupt, and that happens. It happens. And I love the crew we work with, because they got it very quickly and they were brilliant. And then to see them have experiences, look in their eyes going, oh my God, this just happened to me. This, I'm like, yes, and the audio guy, Steve, did you hear it? He goes, yes, I did. He goes, hang on. He's going to play it back. He's like, I got it. It's on the audio. I'm like, yes, so for me, it's like, yes, you can't do it without the crew. So, but you got to get the crew on the same understanding of why you do what you do, and you guys do it together. If I do something, capture something, it makes no sense if the cameraman's not filming it, right? Or the audio guy's not recording it, because we miss it. So when they realize how important those moments are, which they got to that point, it's like everybody's so excited. And when it happens, we're all like high-fiving, like, yes, we got it. We experienced it together. We did it. And that's what the show became, And it's like Help got that way too. By the second season, near the end of the second season, we got that way, when stuff happened. Because you have to build a team, to understand the importance. So everybody's on the same wavelength. Because usually when they get there, like, okay, I just got to record the audio and get this done professionally and get it to them. I just got to film this. Okay, I just got to make sure we film this person interviews and get it. No. Yes, that's all important. But we have to get the paranormal stuff. We have to be there when it happens. We have to document it, because it's far and few in between. You can walk right into a place and something paranormal happens. And if you don't have it recorded, you miss it. We did on a couple occasions. Oh my God, Castle Mingus. We missed something as soon as we walked in those doors. We missed it because something happened to the camera and it wasn't filming. And I'm like, no, so you're going to have those moments. It's like called on the fly in TV production. You got to be on the fly. You got to be ready for anything when you do paranormal. And once you get to that mentality, it's like, it's a struggle until everybody's on that page to capture it. So by the end of the season, we were all capturing stuff, and we were even getting stuff off camera to where I just started letting my recorder go. I just kept my recorder going, because if something happens when we're not filming, I got to get this on audio at least. And I did. So yeah, it's all fun. And the thing with paranormal, it doesn't end, when you leave the location. We were at a place for dinner, and the next day we're going to be at Castle Mingus, and I see this black mass fly over the table, and I look and I go, what the frick? And our cameraman, Steve, director of photography, he's like, do you see something? I go, yeah, black mass to shoot over. He goes, what does that mean? I go, that ain't good. Black mass is negative. He goes, well, they say this hotel is haunted. I said, well, we're not investigating this hotel, and I don't want to know that, because I want to get a good night's sleep. I don't want to be bothered when I'm sleeping, when I'm going to be up all night tomorrow night investigating this other place. Right? It's like, come on, man. I got limits, do not bother me. But something happened. Something happened that night, that just changed everything for the whole shoot. So, you just never know when you're doing paranormal TV. That's why sometimes I'll grab my phone and start filming something that just happened in my room, my bedroom. I waking up because something's in the room with me, is I try doing that as much as I can, start filming stuff. just with the cell phone, just for my own, video log,
Okay.
so to speak. So, sorry, I tell you, this ghost energy drink gets you so wired. It's like
it's absolutely fine, Chris. We're loving it. We are loving
Brilliant.
it. Julie Ray has sent in a question for you as well.
Yes.
Hi, Chris. Is there a location in Britain that is on your wished list to investigate? And is there any particular reason for this place?
Oh boy, there's a couple places. I know I'd love to go to Tower of London. Excuse me. I would love to get in there, just because horror movies were made out of it, Boris Karloff and stuff, and just the history. And I would love to go back to Chillingham Castle because of the experiences I had there during Help, and I believe I may have had a past life there in some capacity because the spirits were telling us that. And if you watch the episode, first season of Help, I was telling Barry that I was getting EVPs like that, and even the owner of the place that I hadn't met yet comes up and says, "I think we've met before." What do you mean? Well, maybe in a past life. And Barry's like, "Oh, you've been talking about this the whole time, and you just said that." So it's like I would love to go back there and investigate again. So those are two places that are at the top of my list. I'm sure there's some other ones I think about later, but for right now,
definitely we're on board with the Tower of London. That is definitely one I think that is every paranormal in the UK would love to get into, because it's got such history throughout time.
Right,
Been there
right.
for many years, and it's I think that would be an absolute awesome location to get into.
Right. Yeah.
You can walk it in the day, and you pick up.
It was a 2005. I was in London and I took my recorder and I went up to the Tower of London, and it just closed. I just missed. I'm like, oh, it was close. So I'm outside and I did like a quick EVP outside, and I caught an EVP. I had that on my website for like years. It's like, I think it says He Promised or something was the EVP. I forget what it was, but I caught one when I was outside of Tower of London. So I can only imagine what we would get on the inside.
It'd just be brilliant. It'd just be absolutely fantastic. I've just had a message in from Kim. Kim is the one that stalks you, Chris, and gets you to come on our shows. And probably doesn't leave you alone. But she has asked, Chris, how did it work for you and Gal to get together again? How did this come about? From obviously, she said you worked in the previous time, like 15 years ago. So how did this all sort of come back to sort of together again?
Well, I know her and I had talked for many years afterwards. I mean, I know that the network had done a spinoff, which was Conversations with a Serial Killer after Dead Famous. And I was supposed to be on that show, but I quit like 3 weeks before production. I just had bad feelings at that time and something I was going through. I said, you know what, I'm going to get an attachment and deal with psychological problems dealing with serial killers. So I backed out. But after that, I always told Gail, I think it was back in 2009, 2010, I started writing to 2-4 Productions, who did Dead Famous. I started writing to them, and then I spoke to one of the previous directors who was with somebody else. He reached out to them, and I created a brand new treatment where there's going to be 3 of us, me, Gail, and an ITC researcher. And we were going to go to the UK and start investigating celebrities in the UK and stuff like that. And there was a reason why we were all coming back together. So I had this whole premise, which was based on truth. And why we would take this route, to rekindle Dead Famous. And they loved it, I guess, from what the director had told me and the producer, and then they were going to pitch it. And then I never heard anything. And I was like, guys, this is a no-brainer, paranormal is really big right now. And it's like, we could do this. But then all of a sudden it was just cold turkey. No one responded. So I even called their office. Nobody called me back. I sent more messages. So I don't know what happened. I was actually really teed off. I'm like, I put all this work into it and everything. You guys aren't even letting me know what's going on, So then I told Gail, I don't know. I just got this feeling we're still going to work with each other. And then it was April of last year. Charlotte Wheeler had contacted me. She was our producer on Dead Famous. And she's the one that found me, to do the show back in 2003. Her and I started tossing around some ideas to do in the UK. And then one of them was like, she wanted to go to Scotland and do a castle. And I said, oh, that'd be great. I'd love to go there too, because I did some at Dead Famous. So we were looking at locations to do a special, and we do the whole history biography of it and investigate it, find out who's there. So I said, why don't I have Gail come with? She goes, are you sure? Like, well, yeah. So I called Gail up on WhatsApp and I told Gail, I said, Gail, what do you think? She goes, oh, that'd be great. And she's like, well, why don't we go to Turn? She goes, I'm working on Turn with a biography that I'm doing, that which won a BAFTA. She goes, I go, no, I'm working with Charlotte. I don't want to go to somebody else yet. Cause Charlotte's going to pitch this. And then Charlotte just didn't get the meeting yet. Time dragged on for a couple months. And believe it or not, I see in the press that there's a series greenlit with Gail in Scotland. I'm like, what the hell? What the, So Gail calls me and goes, yeah, they reached out to me, wanted this. I'm like, this was like the idea that I told you in April. I'm like, what the hell? So I was kind of mad at the universe. I'm going, wait a minute. Charlie and I talked about this concept and idea. What's going on? So I go to bed going, universe, you need to correct this. There's no way Gail can go to these places without me. Who's going to protect her? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do that? Right? You need to set this straight. And I just put that out to the universe. I said, I'm supposed to be on this show. Right? After about a week or two of saying that to the universe, I wake up, I go look at my social media, and I get these messages on my email and everything from Turn. Contact us ASAP. Discovery Channel wants you on this show. I look it up. It's Spooked Scotland. I smile. I go, universe took care of it. Contact my agent. Got a hold of him that day. He says, can you get out here next week? I got to buy some clothes. I didn't even worked out. I go, I don't have packed. I got all clients next week for the next month. I'm like, give me some time here. Right. And they couldn't get the visa anyway with that quickly. So then I was out there like in about 3 weeks to film. So there's one episode I'm not on, but there's 9 episodes I am. So yeah, it worked out. I can't be mad in any such way. The universe put it all together, got us out there, said, you know what, you're right. We need to have you here. And when I got there with Gail, we just picked up where we left off 15 years ago. And you can see that. It's like we never stopped working with each other because we kept in touch over the years on the phone. We used to talk for hours on the phone, about what we could do and this and that. So it's like continuing where Dead Famous left off. Now we have some other people with us and, like Ryan and Evelyn and, and then whoever else in the future and stuff, that grows, the team grows, and we'll see where it goes,
It's got, we've had a couple of messages come in. One from one of our lovely team members. She says she think your next series should be called Eerie Essex.
That's brilliant.
So if you can pitch that idea and get our emails on that'd be great.
Yeah, I think with what they want to do is because I had some talks with, because, I'm an associate producer on the show, which I had asked for. I said, I'm only going to do this if I'm associate producer, but I didn't have much say. The second season I will, if we do a second season. I mean, I want to be more involved. So we give you what you guys deserve, with the evidence, the way it's presented. I mean, Turn's done an extraordinary job filming everything like that. I mean, they blew me away. They did such a professional job. Even the music's fantastic. But the presentation of evidence gets learning, it's a learning curve for that. So it takes some time. So I can help with that. So I hope if we do a second season, I will help with that so that you guys get to see the evidence in its entirety. You guys get to hear what we hear. You guys get to see and we analyze and we show you. Because there's some of the stuff people say, oh, it's bugs, it's dust. I go, listen, I totally understand. I know a lot of stuff you capture, camera bugs. But in some of the stuff we captured, you can tell the difference between dust and everything. And unfortunately, just that doesn't come through in the video clips they're showing you. It doesn't, because I outlined it and I discussed it in front of the camera or when I presented to them of what it actually was. And that just wasn't correlated in the presentation, which is understandable, but not to knock it at all, because they've done an extraordinary job and you get to see some incredible stuff. But I'm the type of person always like, how can we make it better? How can we make it better? How can we make it better? Right. And that's what I want to do is if we get to continue this show. So, so that's it. But with what I do, I'm very grateful to go to Scotland. I love Scotland. Someone asked me, goes, what's your favorite place to investigate? I've been to Mexico, Costa Rica, Jamaica, incredible experiences in Jamaica. All over the United States. I have not been to Canada yet to investigate. And I've been to the UK and I've been to Scotland. Scotland is, and I'm not just saying this, is my favorite place because it is so beautiful. And then England comes second because of the castles and everything else. Europe is my favorite place to investigate because the spirits there are so ancient and a lot of them are really respectful. It's incredible because a lot of spirits here have only been here for a short period of time in America and they're all pissed off. All right. Now you have pissed off spirits in England too, but they've been mad for a long time. And because they've been mad for a long time, they're tired of being mad. So I tend to be able to break through to some of them going, okay, I understand you're mad. But like, you want to be mad for another 100 years? It doesn't have to be that way. Okay. It's like you build rapport with them and you talk to them. You say, listen, man, I'm not trying to hurt you. I just want to get to understand you, you know? And it's amazing, the spirits in the UK, what they're like. So for me, Scotland's great. I know they've talked about doing Spooked England, Spooked Ireland, Spooked, you know, taking the title Spooked and adding another country to it, depending upon what country you go to. So that's the plan, you know, whether it comes out that way, you know, it all has to rate well and everybody has to like the show and get good numbers. And, you know, and then what I tell people is, hey, whatever we can improve on, let me know, because I'll take that back to the producers and we'll make sure that we institute that. And I know the number one thing is the amplification, hearing the EVPs and hearing what we hear in the music, kind of drowning out the EVPs. Got it. I got screenshots. I've taken notes. Totally there with you 100%. But there's so much more to come. Some great responses, some great evidence and experiences, some shocking stuff that happens. I mean, maybe not as shocking as me getting the glove, you know, that experience is sterling. You know, that's embarrassing. It's so funny is I did this interview for a paper in Scotland and we talked about all this amazing stuff. And what do? Headlined, you know, paranormal investigator gets violated. You know, out of everything else we talked about, they don't mention any of that. All they go on the entire article is how I was penetrated by a ghost. It's like, are you kidding me? You know, but that's the media for you. You know, it's like, that's not the most important thing that happened. Right? There's sensationalism, right? They want to sensationalize.
But the thing is, for that moment, though, Chris, I know it was you know, why they've highlighted it, but for me, it was to see the genuine fear for the first time. I've watched you in loads of programs, and I've seen you get spooked, and I've seen you get excited, but that generally was you didn't know how to sort of
process it. I'm like, what do I do? What do I say? You know, there's only other situations I think was when the flute played. Yeah. I wanted to say something to the camera. I said, no, I don't want to talk over what it's doing, because if it does it again,
that was brilliant.
I'm like, and I know that the cameraman was like, his jaw was wide open, and I'm like, I don't want to talk over it, so keep going. So I do it again, and it does it again. And I'm like, oh my God, this is extraordinary, because that's never happened before. Yeah, and to have something new and different happen for the first time, you could see it on her face. Even Ryan's like, I heard that. You know, he's like, yes, amazing. Right. So we broke through in the communication, and they love music, you know? So there's those moments like that. You just don't know what to say. But during the entire series, the one thing that did scare me, okay, which you already saw, and you can't really tell by seeing it, was when we were in Braddock Castle and we're outside at nighttime, and Gail and I are walking by the one tree, and I feel something, and all of a sudden something falls. A branch, a huge ass branch, broke from one of the top of the trees and fell all the way down right in front of Gail. Okay. That scared me because that could have fell on one of our heads. Yeah. Not only that, I knew that was an assault against us, that something wanted us out there, because then listening to some EVPs, I had my audio going, and you hear shortly after that, well, that didn't work. You know, it's like they said, like, well, that didn't work. You know, like they didn't get us out of there, right? Wow. And I'm just like, holy crap. You know, so they did do this, you know? It wasn't just natural occurrence of breaking. They really did do that. And I was just like, because you don't expect that, you know? You don't get to see the branch come all the way down, but I think we did film and show you this big ass branch that fell. Yes. You know, Gail got a fright. Yeah. And I'm like, fuck. You know, I'm like, because what if that fell on one of our heads?
Yeah.
You know, it has, you know, it started off a really good show over in the UK. I think it's taken very well over here. We love sort of the paranormal over in the UK, especially when it's sort of on home turf, and especially when it's sort of done with the precise. Not I say the preciseness. When I feel that we watch these paranormal programs, not enough of us give a beginning, a middle, and an end. Yeah, they give you know with all your programs that you've been on, you give us, you know, the beginning, the middle, and a closing. It may not be the answer that everyone wants, but it is something that you can sort of, close it to.
Right.
There's too many programs out there that just leave the end wide
Oh, I
open.
know.
You sit there and you go, well, what's just happened there? I haven't got a bloody clue what's gone on.
I know. I've watched some of them, and it's disappointing because you want to know what's there. There's a couple times we don't find out exactly what's there, and then sometimes we find out there's a lot there. The only thing with Broderick Castle is I know we never really completely figured out what woman was there at the end, because I watched it. I'm like, we got so sidetracked by the Fae and everything else that we really didn't solve who was the woman that was there. Some other episodes we do, other shows, we come in contact with the person, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's so, for me, think about it this way. When I say in the show, I've been investigating 50 years. I'm 55. Okay. I've had experiences going back to, I was a year and a half, but when I was 4 and 5 years old, I communicated with ghosts. And when I had these experiences, I would tell some of my friends, whatever. I would go around the house trying to talk to them and do experiments. So I was investigating when I was 4 or 5 years old. All right. So when you've been doing this your whole life, now keep in mind, when I was in college, it was the women and playing football, American football, so I was in a fraternity. So it was all doing all that. Still had some paranormal experiences and talked about it with some friends, but I didn't investigate. So I got out of college and I was investigating in the 90s. So when you've been doing this your whole life, when I was standing at Mockery Moor, I even said to the producers, I said, I can't believe I'm here. I said, I remember seeing something on In Search Of, or whatever it was, a documentary in the 70s showing these pictures of these stones, talking about this place. And I'm here. This is just, and I just had this big smile on my face like a little kid. I'm like, God brought me here. I mean, I had those experiences as a child and everything. And the Ouija board told me I would be in Europe during this time period talking to them. And here I am. So 2017 to 2020 something. You're going to be in Europe talking to us. I'm like, what? It's like 1974, 75, whatever it was. And I'm like, what am I going to be doing there? And we'd be talking to us. I go, why would I be talking to you on a Ouija board in Europe? Well, it wasn't a Ouija board, doing what I do now. So they were right. So to be here doing this, I'm like, it's a gift. And I'm just so grateful, and I'm like, well, wherever this takes me, this takes me. And I'm very grateful that I get to go into this beautiful country and do this, to England and to Scotland, and being embraced mostly by everybody there, to allow me as an American to come in. Please understand is that I want to respect this country as much as I can. But if someone's going to contact the ghosts, I want to do it. I want to talk to them, and I'm going to be respectful as much as I can. But if you don't believe in elementals, you don't believe in imps, that's just because you don't know them. That's just because you have not had that experience. And if you stepped away from the TV, if you got on the internet, and you did research on them, you'll find them going back way before anything else, and that they exist. And there's people all over the world. I've done polls, how many people had experiences with them. And so many people have. So the thing is that they exist whether you believe it or not. Throw the tomatoes, throw whatever you want, the skepticism at me. I don't care, because I'm the one investigating them, coming up with the evidence and doing it. And I'm going to present it to you. If you don't believe it, that's fine. If you want to be in your safe zone, that's fine. But there's many people out there that have a voice, many people that have seen these things, and I want to stand next to them saying, hey, I believe you. I know what you're talking about. I know what you're seeing. I know what you're experiencing. I don't have all the answers for the imps and the freaking elementals, but I'm getting them, and I'm going to continue to research this and investigate this. So hopefully we can better understand this realm of existence that they come from and why they're here. That's what a paranormal investigating is. And if you're going to ridicule that or make any comments about that, then you're not investigating. You're not out there. If you say you're a paranormal investigator, then you're only in a small little box investigating only this, when there's so much more. And that's what's amazing about this, is that we can do this together. We can all investigate this, but I wish there was a way we could all put our collective data together, because a lot of it gets lost over the years, and then you start all over again,
Definitely.
So
I totally agree with that one. Simon, have you got any questions for Chris?
No, just keep on doing what you're doing, Chris. Can't wait for your next venture. At least I've got 7 episodes more to look forward to now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's some really cool stuff, and a lot of differences too. Some of the crew, some of the cast members aren't on some of the episodes. There's one I'm not on, and then Evelyn, had something going on, and some other people too. they couldn't make it for some of the episodes. So you're going to see some variations, which is kind of cool, and some fascinating locations. I mean, they take us to Turn did a wonderful job working with the network in selecting amazing locations. I had no say out of these locations. The only thing is one of our earlier producers, I told him, find a place with elementals, please. I want to go to a place with elementals. And he told me we got Island of Aran, and I was like, yes, so that was cool. And I'd love to go back there. So you're going to love the locations. And that's what I think the formula, when I was doing voiceover and watching the episode, bits and pieces, I didn't get to see the whole thing at first, but when I was seeing bits and pieces of it, I was almost tearing up because it reminded me of Dead Famous, because Dead Famous was a particular actor or actress that we were following, their biography, their story, but all the locations they were at and the history behind those locations. Spooked Scotland is taking these famous and not so famous locations in Scotland that are very iconic and telling a little bit of history about them and the ghosts that are there. But the way Turn films it is so beautiful with some of the distant shots and some of the drone shots, and just it's the textures and quality of Scotland is maintained and amplified at these locations, which I think is beautiful. So the story is about these famous locations in Scotland, as well as some of the dark history dealing with spirits and ghosts that are there, that we really go deep into. And then our job is to go in there and find out, are they there, those spirits? And if it's not them, who is it? And keep in mind, just because we're focusing on some spirits, sometimes there's some other spirits maybe mentioned and then we don't hear anything else about it because we have to zone in, or we have to focus in on just one or two and clarify that. But that's what I find extraordinary. Like you said, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. The beginning is, here's the place, here's the stories. The middle is us finding out who it is, why it's there. And then the end is confronting them, communicating with them, and identifying or validating their existence there. And then if they want to cross over, and I help them do that, find peace, any resolution I can have for them. Or if they want to stay, they stay. And you're going to get to see some that demand that they stay. And it's like, okay, I'm not going to tell you not. You can't stay. If you want to stay, then you can stay. Like, damn, I wanted to help you leave this place, but if you want to stay, that's your free will, man. And that's what you're going to get to see, which is different too.
Well, I've just had this comment come in, Chris, as well. Bought my house because my fairy saw fairies in the garden.
Bought my house because my daughter saw fairies in the garden. What I would suggest you do is maybe get one of those night vision cameras to put out there, but then also take a digital recorder, and even the recorder, voice recorder on your cell phone, is go out there and ask questions and see if you get any responses, and then listen for responses, because they do respond on EVP just like ghosts and spirits. So, and it's pretty wild when you get those responses. You're like, oh my God. Like the first one I got when we were in Devon House and how my house is haunted. I said, what do you guys like? What are you? You're not imps. What are you? And it says wudgies, right? Wudgies. We have puck wudgies, which are their type of trolls. They're an elemental. So I told Barry, I said, Barry, and then it said something else. I don't know what it says. He goes, well, play it back for me. I play it back. He goes, oh, Chris, it says pixies. I go, pixies? What the hell's a pixie? And I didn't know what a pixie was. And he tells me. And I'm like, oh my, he goes, Chris, that's an elemental. I said, oh my God. So they're like wudgies. But then I said, what would you call yourself? And it says pixies, clear as day. And that's what was there. And then, of course, they capture in the SLS 3 short little figures coming out of the mirrors. Short little figures on SLS. All 3, not tall, short. How can you fake that? You can't. Exactly. Okay? That's what's extraordinary. And this is the digital dowsing SLS, not the knockoffs, the digital dowsing. So they capture these 3 little figures. We get multiple EVPs saying pixies and stuff like this. And then there's history in Devon of them being there. This guy chops down a cherry tree, which they were mad about. It all follows the myths and legends. It all fit together. So we have to realize that's what's here, So for me, I think it's beautiful to know that there's something else besides us, besides demons, besides angels, besides ghosts, besides aliens, that there's these other life forms. Some of the stories may be fake or fabricated, but there's stories that are legit and real encounters with these things. Yeah. Just tells you that the creator and all creation is amazing. Just amazing that these things exist.
Well, Chris, we have come towards the end of our time.
Of course.
We have gone over, but you know what? I don't care. I don't care, because talking to you is amazing. Your passion, your knowledge, and you've opened my eyes to many things as
Thank
well.
you.
And I take that on board, just like you did last time. When you was on the last time you was on the show, you mentioned certain things, and you give me a purpose to carry on, a purpose of being within the paranormal field. On that previous time we spoke, you've done that again, but in a different way this time.
Right. Here's the thing I want, like, for yourself and everybody else, is I don't mind going into territories that have not been into before, because that's what science is. That's what technology is. And that's what the paranormal is. Too many people are doing the same thing. Too many people are just focusing on the same thing, when that's just a little fragment of the whole picture of this invisible world. We only see 10% of electromagnetic field, which is visual spectrum. 90% we don't see. There are multiple dimensions outside our own and within our own that science and quantum physics now understands. We only hear a certain percentage. We don't hear down from 20 to 0 hertz infrasound. So there's all this other stuff that is untouched, unknown, unexplained. And yet we're only touching that one little surface of interaction with the ghosts and spirits, when there's so much more. So be that pioneer, be that investigator that takes that chance, but support the data, validate it, do what you can. People might say, "Oh, what are you doing? Just stick with ghosts or do that." Do where your heart takes you, where the universe takes you. That's where new discoveries occur. That's where some of the greatest things that have been given to this world have happened. If everybody's doing the same thing, now we can borrow the same principles and we utilize the same things that work and build upon that. Absolutely. And that's what we do in ITC and using electromagnetic field detection devices. We build upon that. Fantastic. But support the people before you, support the people that are pioneers. Don't try to tear them down, and watch where they go. Watch what they discover and they find. And if you believe something, you have a theory, go out there and try to prove it. Go out there to investigate it. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. That's okay. Now you know, and you go in a different direction. But it's exciting on the journey and adventure what you uncover. And that's what paranormal's all about.
I don't know what better way to end this show. That is absolutely spot on.
Thank you.
It's all I just ask you to stay there just for a minute, Chris. All right. I just want to thank everybody that has listened to us on Pulse Talk Radio tonight. I want to thank Simon that has joined me tonight, my wonderful co-host as always. I also want to say a massive, massive thank you to Chris that has joined us tonight as well. So we will be back next week on the EGH Paranormal Talk Show. I'll be back next Thursday as well on Pulse Talk Radio with Journey Through the Unexplained. So please come and listen again. So take care, everybody. It's going to be an abrupt end on Pulse Talk Radio. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you next week. Thank you to everybody that has followed us on Facebook tonight. Thank you ever so much. A lot of love coming through for Chris. Absolutely brilliant on. Loved it, Chris. People want you to come back on our show, Chris. We'd have you on every week if we could. You know that. Fascinating show tonight. Absolutely lovely. Thank you ever so much for everybody who joined us on Facebook. We'll be back next week and on YouTube. I forgot that bit as well. So take care, everybody. Stay safe.
Good night.
All right. Thank you, guys.
If you just stay there for